Let's get sweaty.
Hello and welcome to episode 6 of the Shenmue Dojo Show. I am James Brown and I'm joined as always by my compadre, Mr. Matthew 4-day stag do, Oliver.
4-day stag do. I survived. How's it going, James? All right?
Yeah, all good, man. So you've recovered, have you now?
Yeah, hard work. I tell you what, I can't do it anymore. I'm too old for that shit.
Was it a bit of a big bender then, was it?
It escalated quickly. Bearing in mind, on Saturday we did something called canyoning, which is basically jumping off of like cliffs into rivers.
Okay.
It's quite physical. So you go back and then you start drinking, and you can imagine where it ended up.
The bottom of a river.
Pretty much.
All right, cool. Well, alongside myself and Matt today, we have a very, very special guest. This man needs no introduction, but I'm going to give him a decent one anyway. So, without further ado, welcoming to the show for the very first time, all the way from Ireland, its previous Shenmue Dojo owner, Shenmue Lounge speedrunner, Shenmue 1 and 2 script holder, the Irish maestro, Peter Mother. Is that a bit too much?
We're not recording, are we not? This is being edited out, right? You put on my leg. Come on.
No, that was.
We are recording. Oh, hey,
we are recording.
You know, is that all? Like, I mean, you could have squeezed a few more in there. I mean,
I could have done, but I thought it was a little bit too much as it was. So
I was starting to feel like Apollo Creed and Rocky IV. You know when he get announced with like 15 names whenever he's about to fight Ivan Drago?
That's it, isn't it? I just want to give you a nice big build up there.
Thanks, buddy. It's good to be here.
Right. So, in case anyone is unaware of who you are and were maybe lost with the, some of the stuff I mentioned in that introduction, could you give the listeners a quick self rundown? How you discovered Shenmue? What was it about the series that captured you? And briefly, the path you went down to becoming the owner of the dojo before ourselves.
Sure. Well, firstly, getting into Shenmue, it was the 1st of October. Is it 1999 or 2000? Can't remember the year. It was between 3:30 and 4 p.m. in the afternoon.
You can remember the time, but...
And yes, it is that specific. That is a life-changing moment when you have a path going left and a path going right, and you do something, or something happens that takes you down a path that defines the rest of, essentially, your life to this point. And that was simply just by going shopping with my mother on a Friday afternoon after school, the weekly big shop, as we would call it. And she would go off and do the shopping, but I would go to places I like to go within the mall or shopping centre. And one of them was the shop which had a magazine rack. And on the magazine rack, you had video game magazines. And it was the official Dreamcast magazine issue, I believe it's number 1, kind of number 2, because they have issue 0, where it basically had the massive image of Neo's son on the front of it. And just the tagline, Shenmue, the game that changes everything. And it was that moment. It was that moment where I am now sitting here now on a Shenmue Dojo podcast. That's how much it's defined my life. Flicking through that magazine, looking at the images, without even playing this game or knowing much about it, the images alone just sold me. And not on ways, graphics and voice acting and all this stuff. What I want out of a video game is total escapism. Now, I'm not talking about like sci-fi and first-person shooters. When I say escapism, I want to live my life in a video game to escape from my real living of a life outside my front window. So what that means is, when I seen the images of a town and the fact that it had doors you could open, and these places, the shutters went up and down in the morning and then at night when they close, it was a living, breathing world. That's what I wanted in a video game. Grand Theft Auto kind of had been gearing towards that, especially when you play Grand Theft Auto 1 and 2. But obviously you couldn't go into any buildings. This was a game that let you go behind the door. You could go into a building. You could see who was inside that building. And it was the idea of a world that just sucked me right in. And of course, the arcade. Seeing pictures of arcade machines inside an arcade, which you could actually play. Oh my God, my mind was blown. So of course, over the years, this game that I had already fallen in love with, I just fell in love with even more, to the point where it was 2017, 2018. Can't remember exactly when we had the Shenmue 3 Kickstarter, and the previous owner, George Melita, aka Yama, just messaged me out of the blue and just basically said that he was willing to pass it on and I would be the ideal candidate in his eyes. At this point, I'd actually left the dojo. I did all my moderation work to the extent that I felt that I could, as well as extracurricular activities. I felt like I was the one that was taking the Shenmue Dojo to where I thought it should have always been. Should have always been at the forefront of Shenmue news, of making that conscious effort to go and get it. So even as a moderator, not even as the owner, I was going to Gamescom to interview Yu Suzuki. I was going to Monaco to interview Yu Suzuki. I don't even own the brand, but I'm just doing it because, this is what I feel like. Not that I have to do, but this is what the site should be doing. So I think it was from that George was kind of getting the idea. I don't know what his personal life was going on or other ventures he was looking into, but it was just a nice crossover. And for both the progress of the Shenmue 3 development as well as the re-releases, which we also got, I had a very short time to get the grasp with absolutely everything needed to, in my mind, what I felt was the only option to revamp the entire brand, and that's what I did. So I had a great time doing that, and compared to other past owners, they had just a nice long time of meandering, not much to do. I had a very short stint of complete and utter pedal to the metal. Just I had no life,
Yeah, lots of work.
I had no life, and combining that with finally getting Shenmue 3, it was just a natural stopping point after it. I had some personal issues as well, which kind of all were thrown into the mix, but whenever you guys were willing to take it on, again, for me, it just felt perfect. It felt like a natural progression. And that's why I couldn't have been more happy for you guys to come along and thankfully take on the reins.
We've got a lot to thank you for, really, in that process, really, going from all the incredible work that you actually did to the website and the media section and just the whole revamp, complete new website and forums and everything. And for us to take over from that, it was, a bit of a big honor, really, and hopefully we've done you proud.
I do appreciate that, but I'm not going to sit here and even feel like the thanks isn't for me. You understand? I was kind of a guy who wasn't really sure what he was doing. The only thing I was really doing was politely asking other people to do what they did best.
Yeah.
The amount of other people that worked on what the brand is today, they all deserve the thanks, not me. I just had a couple of ideas, and just it was a great team and a great atmosphere and a great dedication as well. Shenmue 3 certainly helped, but there was a passion there amongst everybody who was working on it at the time, and they just made whatever I had in my head come to life. And those are all the people that deserve the thanks.
Yeah, and there's some nice points in that, actually, your little speech about, because previous episode we were a little bit confused at some of the timeline points, and you kind of tied some knots there about your work in Gamescom in 2017, etc. And incidentally, that magazine that you're on about, that was part of what I used towards the Shenmue World magazine, that Ed Lomas article. So it's pretty cool that was the piece virtually that got you into Shenmue. It's where you found the love for the game originally. So it's nice to have you with us today. I think we're in for a real treat. But as usual, before we get into our main topic of discussion for today, we're going to run through all of the latest Shenmue news. It's mostly community-based this last month, but let's go through some of the more recent headlines since the last episode. So firstly, just want to make a quick mention of the Shenmue Ryo Hazuki Tubbs Duck, which was previously up for pre-order, is now actually available and in stock. So if you were waiting for this to release, they are here to grab, and after receiving my own already, I'm very pleased with the way they turned out. Both of you guys have one, I take it?
Yeah, definitely. I really like it. I was really impressed with the quality of it, actually.
Yeah, it's quality.
I've got two.
You've got two.
Of course, you have to buy. If you're
if
you're a Shenmue collector, you always have to buy two of everything. Okay, not the more expensive stuff, but
Yeah, not the music box.
Yeah, and plus, exactly. That's exactly what I was thinking about. But you have to have one to keep as a collector in its original mint and box package, and then you have the other to open and play with in the box.
Good idea, actually. I think you may have just sold another one to me. Because I was thinking of getting it out actually and displaying it, because it's a pretty nice figure, actually.
Yeah, but correct me if I'm wrong, was there not like a deal on them? That's another reason why I got two. There was
That's true.
I think it was a $5 off or something.
Yeah, if you got two.
It was cheap.
I did get a beat from Jet Set Radio as my second.
Yes, you
like
mixed
that.
and matched. Yeah.
But I might do that, actually. Could get two and then give one away or something. Music box wise, though, just a quick mention on that. Nothing new to report apart from the fact that they just haven't sold out yet, so could be because of the price point, but if you're saving up for one, they are still available. So moving on into community-based news now, and what better way to start than with the recent release of Matt's interview with legendary voice director, sound engineer, the incredible Bill Black, who obviously worked on Shenmue 3 along with the casting, directing, as far as I know, basically managing the whole of the English dub of that release. So Matt, would you like to give us a little bit about what listeners can expect if they haven't listened to this particular interview yet?
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, Bill, I would give him all the credit in the world. He was very candid in what he told me and the way he presented himself. He was very, very honest. We talked about the casting, which obviously brought up the Eric Calso question. I won't spoil it for everybody who hasn't listened to it yet, but it's certainly a good insight into what happened and why it happened. We talk about how he became involved in the project, how it sort of went from just a literal being asked, what do you think, can this be done on X budget, to, right, you're now the voice director of Shenmue 3, get it done, and the time frame that it took him to get it done, and balancing the books and everything else in between. And also, Bill was very, very kind enough to give us a bunch of behind-the-scenes footage from the voiceover recording. I mean, this is Shenmue sort of gold, if I'm being honest with you. This is an insight into how things were done, and I would urge any Shenmue fan out there to go and watch that video.
Yeah, it was quite a nicely edited version from fellow Dojo staff member Jibby. Did a great job capturing that fun feel that the recording appeared to have been. We can also see glimpses of Yu Suzuki getting involved as well, at least helping out with the initial work on the dub. So yeah, like Matt says, you can check out this in the form of a separate video on our YouTube channel, and we also plan to add the raw footage in the upcoming weeks in case people were interested in seeing a little bit more of the footage that we were given. I want to take the opportunity to say thanks to Bill Black again for not only sparing some of his time towards not one, but two interviews, more which will be explained on that front soon. But thanks, Bill, for just being so kind and generous in allowing us to share this behind-the-scenes footage with you fine folk out there as well.
Could I interject with a request?
Go for it.
On the video of the behind-the-scenes stuff, there's the video clip of Corey and Bill dancing. Somebody has to add in the Tom music there. I mean, that has to happen,
that's
right?
a good point.
Come on.
We could have that as a standalone video.
That's surely what they were dancing to. It has to be.
Just have it on repeat for an hour.
Loop the video.
That's one of those extended music videos for sure, and put that as a separate tweet as well.
Funky rhythm.
And quickly, Matt, I checked you had another interview between now and the previous episode, which perhaps we teased a little bit. Can't quite remember. This was with Shenmue fan music creator Richard Cartledge, whose music we've of course played many times before in the previous shows, but can you tell us a little bit about this one, Matt?
Yeah, it's a very, very different interview. Someone who's obviously been involved in the community for a long time. We talk about sort of how Richard found Shenmue. Very much like all of us actually see it in magazines and becoming besotted by it. I think we all share that. We talk about his sort of path in music and also his involvement in the Dragon and Phoenix project, where he is remixing or remastering the old Shenmue tracks ready for the Phoenix project whenever that is due to come out. And I know he's been working on tracks on a almost nightly basis. I think when I interviewed him, he said he'd done 100 tracks at that point.
Insane.
So you can imagine the volume of work that's going into that project just on the music side. So it's another good interview with someone who's passionate about the series and the community, and his music's fantastic. Go and listen to it. Yeah,
and you can find all of our shows and interviews literally wherever you're listening to this right now, YouTube or one of the many podcast catchers. And that was a good segue, actually, Matt, because next up, feels quite a while ago now, but not too long after the previous episode of the show, we received Devlog 4 from the Dragon and Phoenix Collection project. This update was basically an eye candy image fest with not only around 20 new screenshots from the project showing off various locations in Shenmue 1, but there was also a short video on the remake of the U Arcade. Peter, what did you make of these salivating new screenshots?
No, they were great, weren't they? I mean, you just want more. You just, like with any Shenmue project, be it the anime or a potential Shenmue 4 down the road, you wanted it yesterday. It just looked great. You know, in a way, it leaves you speechless. I don't understand. I literally can't get my head around how such a small team is doing what they're doing. Do you know what I mean? You're basically remaking two games. You know, it's like you're even saying about Richard's work on the music. That's just one small part of it.
Yeah.
But I mean, just looking how crisp and amazing the little nuances and details, say like of the sit-down arcade machines, which is all Shenmue fans know that they're just there for show. You can't actually play them unlike the other arcade cabinets, but you just the fact that you can see like on the screen what's happening.
And I bet they will put something in there that you can sit down and play as well. You know, that's the extent that they're going. They're adding new things. You know, we saw glimpses of what looks like a new area as well, which, you know, they're just doing crazy work there, and it's just adding a fresh coat of paint to the original games with the lighting, the sky, the weather, and even the dragon mode, which is supposed to be more of a minor graphical overhaul to the game. Almost, it looks like a remake in terms of the upgrade and graphics fidelity. I'm looking at the image here of the Genpu Maru, you know, the ship that Ryo heads to Hong Kong on, and the water, the sky, the lighting, it just looks incredible.
I mean this in the most positive way I can. It actually scares me a little bit. The thought of playing that game the way it looks in those images, I don't know. That's an experience that I don't even think the first game could even live up to. You know, it's just been completely modernized.
It's like rewriting history, really, because when you think of the games, if you get so used to them, they become the new norm. Imagine going back and playing the Dreamcast version, and it's like you say, it's pretty scary to think that could be coming in the near too distant future.
Yeah, but the only time I will not pull out my Dreamcast is if they somehow manage to include full-time loading screens and include the buzz of the Dreamcast motor loading the disc. Then, you know, as much as we all hate that, there's still a love for that. You know, I do miss that.
That's a cool idea. You could have that in your options. Dreamcast
loading.
Roaring. So next up on the Shenmue Dojo forums, which is the place to go to talk all things Shenmue. If you're not already part of the wonderful dojo community, get yourself over there right now or after the show and join us for some super deep discussions. And there's currently a pretty interesting discussion on the theory of Yuanda Zu being one of the 4 big bosses of the series. Tente, I think.
Okay, I'm not gonna lie, I haven't been on the forums this past week as much. I've been that busy. But what's the theory?
Well, they've found some pretty striking resemblance to the Emperor Envoy scenes from Shenmue 3.
When you find a photograph.
Yeah. The guy that they zoom in with all the gear on or whatever. He's comparing that to the way that Yuanda Zu looks, like similar clothing. He might even have a beard. I was trying to figure that out. It looks like he might have a little mini beard. And the girls that are following this envoy look like the girls that are featured in that chapter tile where they're sitting beside Yuanda Zu, or what looks like Yuanda Zu in that chapter tile. So, I don't know. It's had my mind going anyway, just reading that.
Yeah, I mean, he is a shady character in the series. That's kind of a given, I think, isn't it? There's been a lot of speculation about how, you know, he isn't on the side of good, he's more on the side of evil because of his ambiguity and stuff like that. Isn't that right?
Yeah. You never know. It could be one of those. He's leading down Ryo this path of. It seems like he's pointing him in the direction of, like, you know, go to Guilin, you know, find out stuff there. But he could just be leading him because he's got an ulterior motive of he wants the treasure for himself, like similar to Ren. Ren's only really tagging along because of the treasure, even though he is gaining a bit of friendship with Ryo. But we don't really know enough about Yuanda Zu to know if maybe he is leading him towards the treasure, and, you know, he's going to appear and take it off him and do a leg. You never know, do you?
I'll tell you what we do know. Any bugger who lives on the 10th floor of a building called Ghost Hall and you have to cross a multitude of dangerous planks to get to him, he ain't right. Yeah. There's something shady about that guy. That's a given.
Wrong with him. Something's not right up there, yeah. So if that sounds like something you'd be interested in, head on over to the forums, and whilst you're there, you might notice a few new features that we've added to the sidebar on the right. So Matt, do you want to briefly explain these new features?
Yeah, I'll do it very, very quickly. So as part of sort of keeping the forums up to date and getting things moving, what we've done is on the right-hand side of the forums, we've now got a list of all the live Shenmue streams that are on Twitch. So what this plugin does for us, it scrapes through Twitch and will pull up all the Shenmue streams, and the most popular ones are at the top, and you can work your way down and you can watch a multitude of people streaming Shenmue. I think since we've gone live on that plugin, there's never not been a stream, which is really good. Mm-hmm. So someone's obviously still playing it out there, which is fantastic.
I did notice a bloody one that had like over 1,000 views or something the other day, which was
yeah,
crazy.
There was. I can't remember who it was. One of the bigger YouTubers or Twitch streamers was doing it. I can't remember the bloody name now. But yeah, it was about 1,000 or 1,500 or something like that at one point watching watching a guy play Shenmue, which is fantastic. And you know full well that hopefully people, a few of those people go in and buy the game and then think, oh, I like this, and get involved.
Yeah, I noticed that stream because of this plugin, actually, so otherwise I wouldn't have known that was actually happening. So I just think it's a cool feature to have there. You might just stumble across someone brand new to streaming Shenmue, for all we know.
So on top of that as well, what we've got within that plugin as well, we've got a media section where all our YouTube videos, interviews, podcasts, etc., any of that content is directly on the forums. So if you don't want to leave the forums and you want to watch some of the media, podcasts or whatever, you literally just click on this media link and it's all there for you. You don't even have to leave the forums anymore, which again, for convenience sake, is a great move. And I know I've started using it because we've been putting up some other videos from other content creators as well, which encourages me to watch them because I don't always have the time to sort of trawl around YouTube these days.
Yeah, really cool little features. Twitter's on there as well. And these features are, of course, completely optional. If you think they're making the forums look a little bit cluttered or not to your taste, you can head into your profile preferences and simply disable them there too. But please don't, because we paid an awful lot of money to get this stuff on there if you're enjoying it. So last couple of things now I want to briefly mention. So Switch over at phantomrivestone.com has begun work on a brand new series to his blog site where he's translating content from the official online magazine that was published by Sega's AM2 team back in the day. That's content about the Shenmue series, and it was published regularly over the span of a couple of years until around the time of Shenmue 2's release. So there's going to be some pretty interesting behind the scenes stuff at the time there. So keep an eye out for this new series. And Volume 1 and Volume 2 are already available to read right now over on phantomrivestone.com. Mentioning Richard Cartledge earlier, actually, just a quick mention that later this month you can expect a new release of Suka Pass. Switch has been hard at work with some difficult coding behind some of the new features that you can expect. We've added a music download pack installation system to expand your Shenmue music libraries within the app, and Richard's music is going to be one of the first packs available completely free of charge, of course. I know that's kind of sounds like some sort of DLC, but the app's free and so is the additional content. So literally a couple of button presses and you can install a playlist of Richard's music to your Suka Pass app, and it's just a way of giving the user a little bit more freedom in what music they want to pick and choose to keep the size of the app on your device as small as you want it to be. So if you're a massive Shenmue music nut, you'll probably just want to download all of the packs anyway, because it's a cool feature and it will come into play a little bit more in the future as we add more and more music and other content to the app. Loads more to come on this soon. You can grab the app on Android devices by hitting the Google Play Store and searching for Suka Pass, or for iOS users out there, head over to sukapass.com for information on how to download for your device. So, whilst Suka Pass is a great place to read background lore on all of the original 337 characters of Shenmue 1, Dojo veteran Stuart Peacock, known by his username Miles Per Hour, who previously had brought us a complete Shenmue 2 character database a few years back, which detailed all of the 700 plus characters of Shenmue 2, while he is back again with a complete character database for Shenmue 3. This insane dedication and passion is what makes us all the Shenmue fans that we are today. We're all fucking mad at. You can read up on all of the behind the scenes. You can read up on all of the...
You didn't give me a brief on this beforehand. You didn't tell me we we're allowed to talk and fuck up. I didn't know this.
No, you can do it. It's all right. I did. If you read the chat, I said don't worry about stumbling on your words and stuff because I'll just edit it.
I didn't get reading it. Do you know how long I've been holding a fart?
No, you can do what you want, man. Because I'll just see in Audacity. I'll just see like you made a little noise or something while I was talking.
Oh right, it's not gonna be a little noise.
So I can just edit that.
Earthquake.
Yeah.
Can I just say I can't. I feel like the biggest knob in the world.
Why?
I never realized this until you just said the name.
Stuart Peacock.
Like even saying I'm no after that I'm assuming this is a Sega thing as well. I thought it was just I thought it was just miles per hour, but is it like miles per hour as well?
It basically is. That's where they got the name from.
Yes.
Tails.
I never knew that.
How they named Tails that way, and then
I just thought it was per hour, like POWR per hour. I didn't realize it was.
It's a spell like that, but it's like a play on words, isn't it? Yeah.
Yeah. Oh my god, I didn't even realize that.
The miles per hour thing wasn't. I don't know. It wasn't catchy enough, so then they gave him the nickname Tails.
Tails. Yeah.
So
if you look at the original, like Sonic 2 manual, it will say Tails, quotation marks, miles per hour, or whatever. Yeah.
Yeah.
I'm going to leave this stuff in here, by the way.
Yeah, right. Please don't.
You can read up on all of the behind the scenes that Stuart had to undertake in order to figure out each and every one of these 300 plus characters across both Bailu Village and Niawu. Such crazy determination to track them all down. So head over to shenmuesings.com. So that's Shenmue Sings, basically, because it's like a play on words there, shenmuesings.com, to check out Stuart's latest post that contains the complete character database ready to download at your own leisure. Have you guys had the chance to check this out yet?
Briefly today when I was putting up the main site post, and it is comprehensive in the extreme. I mean, you've got locations, you've got mugshots, you've even got, where possible, English voice actors listed in this database. It is a phenomenal piece of work, and I can only imagine the amount of effort and time that's gone into such a resource that's, again, it just adds to that Shenmue community spirit. We are just batshit crazy, let's be honest.
Yeah. I didn't think he could top the Shenmue 2 character profile that he did, but reading out he got some of the names for the characters in Shenmue 3. He's got a big post on, like I say, the behind the scenes stuff, and he did some crazy things to try and work out who's who. So head over to shenmuesings.com to check that out. And the very last thing for today's news section, it's actually kind of non-news, but will segue nicely into the main discussion topic for this particular episode, Shenmue the anime. So we're kind of expecting it to show up at the recent Crunchyroll Expo 2021, right, Matt?
Yeah, we were. I was convinced, absolutely full-on convinced, would have put my house on it, and now I'd be homeless living in a box.
Yeah, you're not alone. You're not alone.
So we're not really sure when or where we're going to see first bits of footage of the anime in action. So now that it was a no-show at Crunchyroll's own event, but I don't know, I guess they must have a plan in place, whether it's going to drop randomly on Twitter one day and just catch us all off guard, or maybe we'll have to wait a whole year, see it at Crunchyroll Expo 2022.
I really don't know. I mean, Jason DeMarco's very active on Twitter. He's there all the time. And when he's ever asked questions about it, he's turned around and saying it's looking good. He can't wait to show more of it off. So I don't know where they are with this thing. I mean, we'll talk about it more in a bit, but I don't know. It's like it's dangling the carrot, but it's just that little bit out of reach at the moment. And I think because we're all Shenmue fans, like Peter was saying earlier, we want the news now. We want it yesterday. Come on, where is it? Sort of thing.
Yeah, because we waited so long for stuff. It's like we are getting a bit old now. Come on.
Yeah, and I don't know. I don't know what the plan is, but they've obviously got one, and I know some people have talked about the announcement being made too soon, but we'll cover that later.
Maybe so. I mean, do you reckon they're saving it for like a video game show? Because I saw Spaghetti on the forums mention that it could be at the Video Games Awards, possibly.
They've shown animes before, so it's possible. And there's a lot of eyes on the Game Awards. I mean, it can't hurt. I mean, Gamescom, I think, even had anime last year as well. So,
yeah.
I mean, I think it's less likely at Gamescom, quite frankly. But I don't know.
When's Gamescom? Is that this month still?
25th of August, if my dates are correct. Because we're lucky we've got press again, which is fantastic. So we're going to be. I'll be keeping an eye on it. Put it that way. But I just don't know where.
I mean, ultimately, we want. We don't just want gamers who are already familiar with the Shenmue series to watch it. We want anime enthusiasts that may have even never heard of the games. Hopefully, recruit some new Shenmue fans that way. But I'm sure we'll get into this sort of discussion later. So let's just crack on, eh? So, like always, we're going to have a quick music break now. I've picked out a piece from Shenmue 3 that I love, and I've also asked both Matt and Peter to come up with 2 Shenmue songs each. One of their favourite pieces from Shenmue 3 and a wildcard piece from anywhere throughout the series. We'll get to their picks later in the show, but for now, here's mine. And it's an incredible piece of music from Shenmue 3, and it's called Spoken Words. Welcome back. That was spoken words from Shenmue 3's definitive soundtrack, available on Spotify, Apple Music, amongst other places, I'm sure. So, guys, you ready to finally get into the show?
Let's do it.
Let's go for it.
Right, guys. So, the theme for today's episode is going to be our thoughts on the prospects of potential Shenmue 4. I've got a bunch of questions and topics for you both, and I'm just really curious to hear your thoughts, whether in agreement or contrasting opinions, perhaps. So, it's going to be really interesting. Now, I've given you both next to no prep for this entire section. Just wanted to hear your on-the-spot thoughts and feelings regarding these things, and I think hopefully it'll provoke some interesting discussion. So before we eventually bridge into the topic of Shenmue 4, I'm going to start with the aforementioned Shenmue the anime, which I was sort of attempting to segue into from the news section. However, how long is considered a segue after the music break? It's like over 5 minutes ago.
Well, it's the start of an official discussion,
Yeah.
if you want to put it that way.
So how excited are you for seeing the first bits of real footage for the anime series, and how do you expect it to be delivered to us after it not turning up at the Crunchyroll Expo? Matt, do you want to go first?
Oh, that's a question. In terms of excitement, I was signed up immediately. Any Shenmue content, anime, book, manga, whatever, I'm on board. I think the more that you can get people involved in the series and the more methods to do that, the better. So I'm on board, and also from a medium point of view, it gives it opportunity to tell the story in a different light. They can bring in old or cut content that wasn't there before. There's so much they can do with it. There's so much scope they can do with an anime that I don't know. It's a blank canvas, which I really look forward to seeing. I'm gutted that it didn't pop up at Crunchyroll Expo this last week. I had everything on it, and I'd even said it live on stream, and now I look completely, I look really, really silly. But hey, it's one of those things, isn't it?
I thought it was going to be as well, to be fair.
So where it's going to show up, I mean, I'm not au fait with the anime scene as such, so I don't know if there's any other conventions popping up. I know that Telecom Animation, who are actually coincidentally owned by Sega, have their own expo, but I can't remember when the dates of that are. So it's possible that it could be there because they're involved in making the anime itself.
So you think it could be shown at like a Sega event, maybe even Fez later in the year?
I wouldn't rule it out because there has to be some involvement from Sega somewhere, even if it's just to get the bloody sign off on the project. So I wouldn't rule it. Sega Fez is one. We've already sort of touched on the Game Awards potentially with a lot of eyes on it, and it has got form for anime being shown there. Potentially Gamescom as well, and then there's probably anime conventions, etc. I just quite frankly am uneducated about and don't know about. So there is opportunity. I think what we have to keep in mind is it's confirmed that it's not going to release this year, and that's partly our fault for causing the stir in the first place, but that's a whole different ball game altogether. So it's going to be what I presume will be a 2022 release. So if they're looking at 2022, surely we're going to get something by the end of the year. I don't know where though.
Peter, do you share those thoughts? Are you still as optimistic?
I'm optimistic. I'm optimistic from the point of view that we're not going to see a Shenmue Online type situation here. It will come, but I'm not going to sit here and video games are different. We have a lot of experience with video games, both as players and as admirers of the industry and the development of video games. I literally know zero, and I mean zero, about animes or the development of animes themselves. So to me, to put a timeline on it, bear in mind, this was just announced in September of last year.
Yeah, that's true.
It hasn't even been a year yet. And unfortunately, obviously I don't know, but I don't, like Shenmue 3, I don't think they had a lot in the can whatsoever.
Someone mentioned, I don't know who it was, but they mentioned that it was worked on since Shenmue 3, I want to say.
Okay.
Do you know any more on that, Matt? Was it?
It was, but worked on's a broad term, isn't it? When was the project actually given the green light to go ahead? And bearing in mind, again, I'm like Peter, I know bugger all about anime development or anything of the sort. So timelines in making, from an idea to getting it actually out there for consumers, I have no idea. But
yeah,
I just can't imagine. Bearing in mind, it was they had to say it was greenlit around 2019. So when Shenmue 3 got its release. So they've had essentially 2 years to work on it. But in that 2 years, they may have had to storyboard. They may have had to, get castings. They've got so much to even get started.
Yeah, even before that, they even need to decide on if they're going to go ahead with. Okay, it gets greenlit, but then who knows when it was greenlit? Was the director even selected?
Yeah.
Was the animation company that's producing it? Have they taken on the job, or are they farming it out to other telecom? Animators. We don't know that. So to be honest, in hindsight, yeah, of course, it would have been great to see something on Friday night, but at the same time, it hasn't even been officially in, from the announcement of production announcement, it hasn't been officially been in production for even a year. And even as a non-anime expert, I mean, we're dealing with 13 episodes. We're dealing with the pretty big script of Shenmue 1. We're dealing with the musical aspects, the voiceover. Nothing Shenmue gets turned out quick. We should know that by now,
Mm-hmm.
When they say 2022, I believe it is, you're talking, I reckon they're probably shooting for, is it December? The first week of December the original game was released on?
Something like that, wasn't it? Yeah.
It could coincide because anime is obviously a very Japanese thing as well. I know it's a very Western thing, but it is also a very Japanese thing. They could tie it into some sort of anniversary release like that.
Possibly, yeah. So it could be literally next Crunchyroll Expo then that they're planning on showing it.
Yeah,
and like you said there, recruiting people for the team and stuff. We know that Keith Relsel was only asked. Well, he applied to become an artist for the anime, and that was like within the year.
Yeah, so it's difficult, isn't it? I mean, I suppose if there's one lesson from Shenmue 3, among others, is that if you blow your load and show something too soon when it's not ready, you're going to get shit on from a great height.
Absolutely.
And that happened in 2017 with the teaser trailer. I'm not going to go into the reasons why they showed it, etc. I get it was a Kickstarter project, but it got crapped on. So I would rather that they took their time and showed something that's going to blow people's minds and then hammer that promotion from that point onwards, because then you set the bar. You're going, right, this is top-notch quality, and we're going to hammer this all the way to release. And I think then you're on the right foot to getting people involved. If you show something that's not ready, not right, given past experience, I would be very wary of them blowing their load and showing something too soon.
Yeah, and I'm sorry to be the dark cloud that hangs over this, but I'm going to say it. I appreciate and respect the fact that other people's views differ, but COVID-19 has messed this globe up. Definitely. It is that simple from a working standpoint.
Yeah,
I don't care what if it's a video game, movie, anime. It has affected everything.
Yeah, majorly.
Well, everything's been pushed by a year, hasn't it?
Yeah. I mean, are the God of War fans kicking off because that's been delayed? Horizon Zero Dawn, that's been delayed. I know they're video games, but everything's just being delayed, and that's just par for the course with the world we're living in now.
I guess the benefit with the anime is they don't even need to say it's been delayed because they haven't even announced a release date or anything. So they could just be quietly, working away, maybe affected by COVID. It has pushed them out a year, but they don't actually need to say anything because we're none the wiser anyway. It's not like they've given a definitive release date. We just know that it's not going to be this year. So they don't have to say anything, really.
That's smart as well, considering, again, Shenmue 3 experience of obviously the game being delayed a few times and the ruckus that caused. So actually, by not committing to something, when you do set a release date, you're hoping that release date is the date and you're not committing to something too soon.
Of course, and let's not forget, as we also have the information on from a couple of people, Yu Suzuki himself is very heavily involved in this. And if that's the case, Yu does what Yu wants. Okay, nobody's going to rush him on anything. That anime is not going out the door until he finally gives his stamp of approval on it.
Yeah, and that's right.
Exactly. And, that was Jason DeMarco recently. He was saying how great it looks, Yu Suzuki's hands-on and stuff. So it's going to turn into something good because Yu Suzuki's so hands-on.
Of course, and let's consider another option as well. If Yu Suzuki is so hands-on, and of course we have no confirmation of this whatsoever, but who's not to say that, the last we heard from Cedric in regards to Shenmue 3 was at the beginning of I know there was a tweet recently, but at the beginning of last year, he said, once things get settled, we'll start, talking and seeing what we can do for a potential Shenmue 4. We're now in August of 2021. Who's to say, considering what we learned from the Shenmue 3 Kickstarter, which they did have an obligation to keep fans up to date with what was going on, who's to say the Shenmue 4 hasn't been greenlit at the end of last year?
Yeah, exactly.
And they've been working on it, and the anime is being worked on, and once the two of them are at a natural coming together path, say, for example, I don't know, the Video Game Awards, you have the Shenmue anime, and then boom, after it, Shenmue 4 in official production or something like that. It's...
Oh man, that would be insane, wouldn't it?
Bloody hell. That'd break that would break the fucking internet, let's be honest.
But you know what I mean? Yeah, you're talking about, like, say, the Video Game Awards and Gamescom not really being an anime environment. Well, it will be an anime environment if you're coupling that with the game announcement. And Shenmue 4 is, the game that would be announced.
And it's a line in the sand, isn't it? If you just say they did that and go, right, anime, and here's Shenmue 4, by the way, everybody. It's a massive line in the sand to go, right, we are taking this game seriously. We are taking this franchise seriously. We are pushing this to everybody. Get on board.
Yeah, imagine the eye turning for that.
Yeah, plus the two of them pulled together. The Shenmue 4 being announced gives the anime muscle, and then the anime announcement muscle gives Shenmue 4 a pull. So you're basically promoting each other in one big package. If you're interested in the game, oh god, I didn't know there was an anime. I might check that out. Oh, I love anime. What? Oh, Shenmue's games? I might check it out too. They both work together and help each other.
I don't think my heart could take that. I don't think I'd be able to survive it long enough to see bloody anime.
But the longer the wait goes on, the more that becomes a possibility.
Yeah. No, you're right. And, even though Jason DeMarco said it won't be releasing this year, I suppose you could even interpret that it's not going to come next year either. It could be 2023. Like you say, it could be lined up to release alongside Shenmue 4, for all we know.
And if you're running with that idea that they are lined up to go together, then I think everybody would accept that quite happily with open arms, be like, brilliant, bring it on, sort of thing. I think what people are apprehensive about at the moment is because there's no news, but then that just comes from not knowing anything, doesn't it? And we just have to sort of relax and let the people behind the scenes do their job.
There is plenty of Shenmue stuff / news still in the pipeline. We have multiple items, including the limited edition. The record collection, the music box. You have Adam Scipione's Shenmue documentary. That's still in the can. You have the Shenmue anime happening, and you've also a potential Shenmue 4 possibly happening. I don't know if you want to read into it too much, but I don't know if you're bringing it up later on the show, but we had a little very small tweet from Cedric, it's
putting it out there.
Yeah, you just never know. I think we're in a good place. We're in a place where we do have to be patient. Let's not be wrong, but we ain't got nothing but time, baby.
Yeah,
it's it's as simple as that.
So, Peter, this is going to be a nice segue question for you now. So, since you're such a huge anime enthusiast, what do you want to see from the anime? Not necessarily what you expect to see, but do you perhaps want to see a play-by-play retelling of the story so far? Or are you more hopeful to see other aspects of the world play out, maybe other stories, following other characters, basically taking some liberties to expand the universes even further?
Yeah, I would definitely be very pro. Is taking liberties the right word? But I mean, of course, the anime, I'm assuming, is going to follow the original first game, the main storyline, okay? And that's fantastic. But with 13 episodes, I mean, you have all sorts of little side stories you could have there to really build character development. Like say Akemi or something, you know? And, you could have Rio just walking the streets to wait till late at night, and something happens and that becomes a little side thing or a little subplot of that episode, and then you bring it back on to the main story. There's so much stuff that can be done, but I'm mostly looking forward to the direction, how this is approached, because video games and watching, say, a television show or a movie are completely different. They evoke different emotions. You're just sitting, you're more invested into what you're watching rather than what you're playing. So I'm very interested in to see how this is directed and what the director wants you to feel in each episode. Do they want you to feel sadness? Do they want you to feel intrigue? Do they want you to feel happiness? Do they want you, and the Shenmue story has so much scope for that. So many characters, so many shops. I know there's only 2 main areas in the video game, but you could have an episode based on Komina Sanada's bakery, having you could literally write anything, and as long as Yu Suzuki gives the okay for it, I think that would be amazing to see character development of these characters we have known for over 20 years and give them a new spin. I hope that's what would happen.
Yeah, I concur. That sounds great, really. Anything else you want to see, Matt, from the anime?
I think Peter's covered it. For me, it's a blank canvas. It's a new medium. So I don't know, taking liberties is probably the word I would use for it, actually. I think you're at liberty to go, right, how do we interpret this wonderful story? Where do we want to take this story? How do we want the audience to feel? What content do we want to put in? Bearing in mind that we know the games have had quite a lot of content cut out. I mean, the boat chapter being one of them. Could we see the boat chapter, for example? Could they flesh that journey out to Hong Kong, potentially? There's so much scope there in terms of what they could do. And it doesn't just go with the main story. They might choose to go down a whole different casting route, for example, because they want a different spin on it. It is, for all intents and purposes, a new start for the Shenmue franchise in a different medium. And it can go in any direction that they want to. And I think they shouldn't be hamstrung necessarily by the history of the games. If you know what I'm saying, like, it needs to follow the broad outline of the main story, absolutely. But if they want to go off at tangents and develop different characters or weave different stories into the journey, they should be at liberty to do that as long as they get the okay from Yu Suzuki himself. I'm all for it.
Yeah, and just thinking about that 13 episode plan, how much of Shenmue 2 do you think they're going to get to?
That's a question, isn't it?
I don't think they will.
You don't think they'll reach Shenmue 2?
No. I think that's a kind of early days. I don't want to say we'll try and wrap it up type thing, because I think the official outline was most of Shenmue 2. So that could mean one of, well, actually, maybe if they mean most of Shenmue 2, that they're going to wrap it up in Kowloon with, do you know what I mean?
Yeah. I was thinking that's a sort of good place, or maybe, meeting Li Xiao Tao or something, somewhere along those lines, perhaps, or Ren, maybe encountering Ren. They want to get Ren into the series. I don't know.
No, see, with the wording of most of Shenmue 2, I'm thinking that, that's disc 3 of 4 in Shenmue 2. So that's the top of the big ox building, and Landy buggers off the Guilin, and that's that we all know that was kind of a natural stopping point anyway. So I'm wondering if they've got people who played the game in there, or people that have read the original scripts and just said, right, bang, I think we'll do up to there, because then by saying most of Shenmue 2, if you take Guilin away from that, you're basically doing Shenmue 1 and Shenmue 2.
Yeah. Okay, so this is kind of good for my next question then. So if you think they're going to get that far throughout the series of games to that point of the story, how did they go about actually structuring a show like this at this stage to not actually overtake the storyline in the games? So say if, for example, the games are going to be released 4+ years between each other, can you actually see the show catching up maybe a little too quickly, having to go on a bit of a hiatus or something?
Well, this comes into what we were talking about earlier in terms of whether they can tie the anime up to a potential Shenmue 4, for example, because then you're consistently, essentially 2 games ahead, aren't you, of the anime? So you could have, obviously season 1 of the anime, which will cover Shenmue 1, Shenmue 2. Season 2 could do Shenmue 3 and flesh out some of the areas in Shenmue 3 that I know weren't as fleshed out as maybe we'd have liked to have happened. And then within that, when they get into production to hopefully for a season 3, we'd be in the zone of potentially Shenmue 5 if that's the way they went.
Mm-hmm.
And then you consistently stay in front of it. I mean, they're going to be talking to WiseNet, they're going to be talking to Sega and whoever else are involved, with Cedric and Ryan Payton, etc., to work out a structure that if games are going to be released at said point, how is the anime going to line up, assuming, and this is the thing, it's assuming it gets a second season.
Yeah, because
there's many shows out there that don't get second seasons for whatever reason. I mean, Netflix is notorious for it. I don't know how it works in the anime world, but that is a risk in itself in some respects, that you get to a certain point in the anime, say the Big Ox building for argument's sake, and it doesn't get that second season. And then you sort of sat there going, for fuck's sake, this is a fucking cliffhanger, especially if you're new to the series through the anime. You want to know what's going to happen next.
I suppose the plus point there is at least we've got someone like Jason DeMarco behind the whole thing, who seems like a Shenmue fan at the end of the day.
Yeah,
so
definitely.
He'd probably want to see the show continue, even if it doesn't do as well as they hoped. I think that's what we kind of need. And same with Cedric. We've got people out there that even if the game isn't as successful as they were hoping for, they're still committed because they're passionate about Sega, the franchise, and the series moving forward. So hopefully that works in Shenmue's favour. And, just because they're not making millions and millions of profit, it's still going to lead down to future sequels and whatever, and we'll actually get to bloody finish this shit at some point.
Well, yeah, I mean, that's why I say I don't even think they'll do two. They'll just have season 1 focus on Shenmue 1, season 2 focus on Shenmue 2, and so on and so forth.
Yeah, it's the pacing, isn't it, really? If they can pace it out nicely like that, then there won't ever be a point where the anime's caught up and, Shenmue 5's not going to come out for 4 years. So I think there will be a plan in place. There must be, right?
They're going to have some idea around not just the anime, but I think the franchise as a whole, because at the end of the day, Shenmue is primarily known as a video game. So you need to look at how the anime it sort of complements that as well, and how it pushes the franchise forward. And they're going to have plans, I think, for that, and that includes merchandise and other bits and pieces as well, and hopefully future releases.
Unless they are just trying to do a standalone one, they kind of know it's just going to be a 1-season thing with a possible resurrection down the road, maybe after the video games are finished. Because if you look at the episode guide, 13 episodes, right? Episode 6 is going to be your mid-season finale type territory.
Yeah.
So that could be, whenever you obviously leave Yokosuka and travel to Hong Kong. Then that'll take you to episode 12, which is the back end of the season. And then your episode 13 would be your finale.
That's a good point, actually.
So, are they just gonna maybe play it cautiously or just play the long game? I don't know. I don't think we have a Game of Thrones situation to worry about. I don't think we have a George R. R. Martin book versus TV show type situation on our hands. I think this is just kind of for now, a one-shot deal type thing.
Well, it'd be interesting to see,
And who knows what will happen down the line.
Yeah. Okay, we're going to move on from the anime now, and we're going to take a little music break, and we're going to start with your Shenmue 3 music pick, Matt. What do you have for us?
So my Shenmue 3 music pick is When Young. It is the track that is used for when you're playing hide and seek over in the Sunflower Grove. It's a personal favourite.
Welcome back. That was When Young from Shenmue 3. So I want to go into Shenmue 3 a little now, actually, with the next series of points. So we're a little bit more familiar with your thoughts and feelings on the game, Matt, but I'm interested in hearing Peter's side. So I know you've played it originally on camera for the Dojo YouTube channel, Peter, where we literally got your first impressions of the entire game from start to finish. I'd actually recommend that people check out that series, as it was great seeing such a big Shenmue fan experience in the game for the very first time. I'll pop the link in the show notes, description, etc. But spoiler alert, there were some things on your first playthrough that somewhat disappointed you at the time. Would that be fair to say? But you've since played the game through again recently, and now with the pressure off, you actually enjoyed the game even more.
Absolutely. I appreciate the introduction, but that wasn't even really a Shenmue fan playing that first run. My life was in a bad way at that time, and I felt there was more an obligation to play it out of spoilers.
Yeah,
so
but you're still a fan. You've followed the series since day one and waited for the game and stuff.
Of course, but life just throws you some curveballs, and I had to wait. I had to wait until I played it again recently. Everything was well in the world again, and it was complete. It was a different game. It was completely and utterly different. Just that absolute feeling of waking up in the morning. You're now a real Hazuki again, just like you did back in, the Hazuki residence. You woke up in the morning and you had a plan. You knew what you were going to do. You were going to get your jacket on. You said good morning to Shenhua. And I'm sure, like most people out there, you then just began to live vicariously through the video game. You woke up at Bailu Village, you woke up outside, you could see the moisture on the ground, you could see the sunrise coming up over you. It was borderline poetic. You're walking past that beautiful Shenmue tree all the way down. If you were disciplined, you would do a bit of training. You want to get that Kung Fu bar up, you want to get your stamina up, and you just, I don't know why, whenever I was playing it personally, I just heard, like, be it Yu Suzuki or Iwao, just saying in my head, just be dedicated, be real, and then you fell into the routine.
Mm.
The way I played it was just like enjoying each day, embracing Bailu Village, just doing a little bit of what I needed to do. It was in my notebook, but then discovering the other aspects of it, which is just, which is kind of an intro in Bailu Village. For example, the fact that you need to buy certain items to complete an inventory list in the pawn shop to get a move scroll. I didn't do this in my first playthroughs, but I am a huge collector in video games. I am a 100%er. I love collecting everything. So all those items you could get straight away at the beginning, I know what I've got to do, and I love that feeling. There's all these items I can buy, I can collect. And then that's also when I started looking at the trophies, and I realized that I had to fish 1,000 fish, man. Seriously, 500 would have been more than enough. Come on, who made that call?
I think
seriously, who made that call?
I don't know.
500, and you're fine. But that then filters into your day, and that's what I'm talking about. You then just live day by day in Shenmue 3. You didn't play it as a game. I'm sure plenty of people did, but to get the real greatness out of this game, to understand truly what Yu Suzuki was talking about. He gave you the spoilers beforehand, not in terms of story, but the how to play this game. You appreciate it. You take your time with it. We did so much to put into this game for you to take your time, enjoy the experience. You'll play it differently from another player plays it, and experience it differently. That's exactly what he was talking about. And I thoroughly, absolutely enjoyed it. I'm back and forth. I'm always going to go back and forth. I said at the time, my second playthrough, this beat Shenmue 2 for me. And as you guys know, Shenmue 2 is my favourite game of all time, bar none. I'll forever be in a turmoil of going back and forth on that. Shenmue 2 was great and long and so expansive and amazing, but then Shenmue 3 had, to love something as much as I love Shenmue, I believe in love in general, that you recognize the faults as well as the good things, and you still love it for what it is, be it a person, a thing, or anything. Shenmue 3 has its problems, so I still love it anyway. It's just amazing.
Yeah, and I suppose that second playthrough, you got the pressure off you. You were trying to entertain people with your YouTube series, and you knew that you couldn't go and collect everything because you're going to turn viewers off, aren't you, if you just mine them? Imagine if you did the 1,000 bloody fish trophy on camera.
Exactly.
It'd be 100 playlist.
Yep. But if there's anybody listening out there who is a trophy hunter and is having trouble with that, there is a little secret, and I firmly believe this is the greatness of Yu Suzuki. Okay, if he knows there's 1,000 fish to be caught, what does he do? He has a little secret that you can win, or by helping a kid out. You're doing a really kind thing. You're helping a kid out with a football. He'll give you a secret fishing spot. You can go in there and you can just cheese up to 80 fish a day. So 12 in-game days, you're going to have that trophy.
Yeah.
So there's an answer for everything. Even though we're joking and laughing about 1,000 fish, you can do that in Bailu Village before you even leave. Point is, you got to give the game something, and the game will give you something back. And that's the beauty of Yu Suzuki's games.
It's nice to hear that, you took that second chance on it, and you've come out and, claiming that it's your favourite game in your series now. It's overtaken Shenmue 2, which was your favourite game of all time. Shenmue 3, back and forth, I know, but it's just nice to hear that kind of opinion, considering, how polarising it's been. I just don't think people really invested themselves in it, or, similar to my sort of situation the first time I played it, you've got these great expectations where the series is going to go, what you're expecting, and some of those things were kind of unfulfilled, so it felt a little bit disappointing at the time. But then if you actually see it for what it is and what they achieved on the budget that they had, I think you've got to applaud them for that, definitely.
Yeah, I even went as far as maxing out all the moves. It was, like, I mean, I couldn't have did it on a playthrough, you know. I just couldn't have did it.
That's dedication.
That's the problem. If the modern day gaming industry and its fandom, with all the 2021 bells and whistles, including streaming and popularity and influencers, if that stream is flowing this way, Shenmue is just going against all that. This is not a game that you're going to get. You're going to put 10 hours in and feel gratification.
Mm.
Shenmue's never been about that anyway. Why people went into it with that mentality, you mustn't have known Shenmue that well. You need to give this game something for it to give back. Yu Suzuki has screened that even from the first Shenmue. You have to give it your time. You have to embrace it. It is a work of art, you know?
So I'm interested, actually. We're going to break it down now. This is the next series of points into the features of the game. So it's going to turn into a little bit of a mini review between yourselves. So I'm going to start with the story first, and if you want to talk a little bit about each of these points, feel free. But if you could rate them out of 10, and we'll start with you, Matt. So do you want to give us a rating first? What do you think of the story?
Honestly, sorry, Pete.
Yeah, I was going to say, I wish we were writing this down on camera. No, so we turn it around at the same time. So it's not going to be like, Matt just got my number again. You know?
Yeah. Well, we'll go back and forth, so, you know.
Fair enough.
I mean, I suppose if you're embracing the flaws of Shenmue 3, one of the biggest flaws is its story. Let's not beat around the bush about it. Whether you liked Shenmue 3 or didn't like it, there is one element that we all agree on, as the story was not as fulfilling as I think we'd all hoped for. Now, there are reasons behind that, including the budget and various other bits and pieces. So, I mean, I'd give it a solid 6.
Is that what you were going to say, Peter?
Yeah, all day. 6 was in my head from the very second you asked that.
Okay, well, you've got an opportunity in the next part to go first, and maybe Matt will be doing the same.
Go for it.
So, gameplay next. So how did you guys find the overall controls and the general feeling? Did it retain that Shenmue feel for you?
Yeah. 8 out of 10.
8 out of 10. Okay.
Yes, and the reason for that is very simply, it functions like a modern day game. That feeling of just moving Ryo Hazuki, the way a modern day game moves its playable character, or characters, that was fantastic. I'm not going to go into the specifics of the animation, for example, this little point and that little point. It was just, I thought the fighting itself was, it grows on you more. Of course, it's very wishy-washy. You don't feel the impact and things like that. But if it fixed all those things and, of course, had throw moves, you're looking at a solid 9, 10 out of 10.
Well, I'm going to do combat's coming later, so
okay.
Just feeling just the general sort of gameplay elements that you would expect from a Shenmue game.
Okay, so holding the controller in my hand, whenever just the way you could move the analog stick, unlike the original games, it just you felt more like you were Ryo Hazuki, and I loved how it didn't force you to run. You had the option to choose to run. I lost count of how many times I just walked down that path of Bailu Village from Shenmue's home into the main score, just looking at the beautiful environments, be able to move the camera just around and just take in that beautiful scenery.
What did you think about the over-the-shoulder side of that camera?
I'm used to it. I can remember my very first game playing that with that style of camera was the Batman Arkham games, Arkham Asylum. That was the very first game I had ever played, which I think is also an Unreal 4 game. That I remember playing that for the first time, and it was a little bit jarring, especially because when you held R2 to run as Batman, the camera would straighten up. It would run directly behind him, which was like, well, why didn't you do this? So by this stage, more than used to it. It didn't bother me whatsoever.
Fair enough. Matt, you got a score or any other feelings?
I mean, I remember picking it up for the first time, obviously, when it came out, and the biggest thing I felt was the weight of Ryo. It sounds really cheesy, but obviously we had the tank controls in Shenmue 1 and 2, and they obviously needed updating. But what I felt they got the balance right with the control scheme in Shenmue 3 was there was a weight to Ryo. You could move him freely, but he didn't feel floaty. He didn't go too far down that modern route, if you like. And for me, that felt really, really good. I think sort of general gameplay mechanics, I mean, the stamina system divides opinion. I didn't mind it. but I can see why people found it intrusive. But it goes back to the way the game, you've been told the way to play the game, which is slowly to take your time, embrace the world. So I'd like to see that element of the stamina system develop more, to have maybe more of an impact on maybe the fighting engine, for example. But I think overall, if I was scoring general gameplay and the feel of Ryo Hazuki, I'd give it a solid 7.5.
7.5. Ooh. Okay, I'll record that down. I wasn't expecting half scores, but that's fine.
7.5 means he picked 8, but he didn't want to copy me, so he made 7.5. That's why.
That's about right. Okay, so we know Shenmue is heavy on dialogue. Characters are a big thing. What would you guys say about Shenmue 3's characters, both old and new? So, Matt, do you want to go first this time?
Yeah, I mean, it goes into the story again. There's some lovely characters in there. I mean, obviously, the conversation with Ryo and Shenhua at night are absolutely fantastic. They are among the best conversations in the series, bar none. They are fantastic, and they are so in depth, so detailed, and so interesting that I don't understand how you could want to miss them and skip through the game, because I think part of the focus of Shenmue 3 was that relationship between Ryo and Shenhua, and that was done for me perfectly. It was excellent. It lost a little bit in Niaowu, because obviously I think things were rushed, but those two characters were excellent. I think general, you're looking at Ren, I thought he was fine. I mean, Lan Di, didn't hear much from him, but do you ever hear much from Lan Di in Shenmue games? Let's be honest. So, but again,
nothing in Shenmue 2, actually.
Again, he looked menacing, so it worked nicely. Niao Sun, I would have liked more from, but in hindsight, yeah, it's a setup, isn't it, in terms of the story content? I think secondary characters is where I wanted more. I wanted more development from them. So I talk about Xiling, the Shrine Maiden in Niaowu. If you look at the website, the Japanese website for Shenmue 3, it talks about her wanting to leave Niaowu because she wants to broaden herself and do different things. And there was none of that in Shenmue 3 in terms of the interactions that Ryo and her had. And she could have been a really nice character. So I felt that some of the secondary characters where in Shenmue 1 and 2, there was a bit more to them. It needed more, if I'm honest, being brutally honest with you. But I think overall, as the characters in the game, and then obviously you've got the tertiary characters who sort of standard Shenmue characters in some respect. I mean, I was happy with it. I would say, if I'm shoving a score on it, 7.
Fair enough. Anything to add to that, Pete?
So you're talking specifically just in terms of the secondary character, like Matt more or less covered, the Shenhua dialogue, which was of course immense. That was fantastic, and then of course your antagonists such as Lan Di and Neo-Sun and things like that. Again, going back to what he was saying about how Niaowu maybe was a little bit rushed. Bailu Village, I loved the characters that lived in it. Like the stonemason. I'm struggling to remember his name. Not the one, not the little girl's father who you meet originally on, but the one that lives up near the Panda Market.
Is that K? It's K or something?
Yeah, Mr. Key.
Mr. Key.
Mr. Key.
Yeah. Just the look and the design and the way he spoke, his mannerisms, particularly as well, because even when we were pre-warned that Ryo's a stranger in this village, that thread carries all the way right through the whole Bailu Village episode, and of course the children are like the little things like hide and seek. Little nuances like that are just awesome,
delightful.
What's her name?
The abandoned temple guy as well.
Mr. Soon, not Mr. Soon. The Elder Ye, like the character of Elder Ye. But I mean, going back to what Matt said, it's the backstories and the character development of these. They just take one little thing. I'll give you an example of that. Like Matt was saying, in Niaowu with the Shrine Maiden, Xiling, she has a side quest, right? That's like outside of the main story. Was this a decision that was made then later on in the game to have these things as side quests? So, why would you take away from her story? You could have easily have integrated that as a main plot point for her. In terms of, even though it's a little side quest, it's still you doing something with her and developing your relationship with her to justify why she's there with you at the end. Whenever you're going over to the old castle.
I understand what they were doing. I think they were trying to streamline the systems from Shenmue 1 and 2, where you just randomly walk into an event. they were hoping that by you running around talking to characters and there's question icons popping up, it's telling you that there's an activity to do. Kind of going for that sort of mainstream open world style. Maybe someone introduced this kind of mechanic to Yu Suzuki at some point, but
Yeah.
I'd kind of preferred that, just stumbling across, maybe time, date as a factor, or weather, even in Shenmue 1, where multiple playthroughs were like, oh my God, you just walked into this brand new cutscene you've never ever seen before. Whereas in terms of Shenmue 3, it's more like just running around seeing if a character's got an icon at that particular point in the story.
Yeah.
It feels a little bit more artificial than just stumbling across an awesome scene that you can't believe you found.
Exactly. And the Shenmue series, like we're all used to, maybe it was that they were just trying to be a bit more, appealing to general gamers who are used to playing open world games, because the Shenmue series itself is built, like, no disrespect, it's built on meandering tasks to get an answer. Go get this. Go find that. You want to wrote a book on Oling Shu. You need to go speak to this person. It turns out it was in the location where you were at all along. Just having her give you a little task for whatever reason that the side quest is built upon, for her to then tell you, like, I'm not too sure what she tells you about Liu He Hall, but it develops that relationship.
Mm-hmm. Gives more weight to her character.
Yeah, we all agree that, especially, Schilling and, is it Mr. Sue? Is his name?
Yes,
is it Mr.
yes.
Sue?
That's right,
The
big guy.
Yeah, from Liu He Hall. Why are they there? What's there? What are they getting out of being there? So it doesn't really kind of fit, but you just go with it anyway. So overall scores, I'm going to go with 6 again.
6 on the characters. Okay, fair enough.
Yeah.
Next up then, minigames. We know you couldn't particularly bring back the old Sega classic arcade machines, but actually they still managed to jam-pack Shenmue 3 with a substantial amount to do. So from Whack-A-Mole to forklifting again. What did you think of the minigames, Peter?
I'm going to give them the minigames. I'm jumping between 9 and 10 because they nailed them. For what they had to work with, considering you're not going to get a Sega approval for an arcade machine like we had in Shenmue 1 and 2, you kind of just have to take it at face value of what they were able to do. You look at the game choices they had, the Whack-A-Mole, the highway game, this is in Bailu Village, first of all. You had your basic games, just mechanical. The design work on them was immense. I mean, everything from where you put the coin in, the texture work, the holes where the molds come out of, the mechanics of the gameplay itself, the highway challenge, and then, of course, it all feeds into the economy system with the tickets that you get to use on the wheel. I thought all that was perfect. It was exactly what this game needed. And then, the music was spot on for them as well. I love the new Excite QTE. I wasn't so much a fan of the QTE title because of the fake outs they now brought in.
Yeah.
They were so distraught, I'm not going to lie. Because when you play a game, you want to win. You want to do your best. But when you're getting faked out, it was kind of like, really? And then you get to Niawu, and the arcades, you actually have them in there. The Shobu-chan Fighter, again, with its completely comical rip-off of Virtua Fighter. The music, the fact that when you play these games as well, there's a prize that you can win. It's all interlinked. Another great thing about the mini games, we're talking about a game that's on a budget. Shenmue 3 had the Pale Toss game in Bailu Village, so what did you do when you got the Niawu? They made it bigger and better. They gave it its full arcade cabinet with hole-in-one and the basketball game. Same mechanics, but they just look differently. But yet you're still invested in trying to win because you're going to get the items which then help you get the move scrolls. So I thought they did mini games as perfectly as they could have done.
Yeah, and that's without even mentioning Lucky Hit.
Not even missing Lucky, yeah.
Smart Ball.
Smart Ball. God, they even tied a couple of the move scrolls to Smart Ball. Who made that decision? Seriously.
I know, and that's really tough as well, those games.
I thought it was just get all the balls in the hole. I didn't realize then when it came to the one with the blue and red lines, that's Smart Ball bingo.
Oh, okay.
That's what that is. And to get one of the move scrolls, you have to get the big red fighter jet, and you have to get a bingo on the red line, I think it is. So not only do you have to get them in all the holes, you have to get them in specific holes. It was a nightmare. But again, you're still going there, you're still trying to do it, you're not going to walk away because you're having fun playing them. So I have 10 out of 10.
10 out of 10, I've got that down, yep.
Yeah.
Matt?
I mean, Peter's covered it, to be fair. I mean, I had in my head 9 for a couple of reasons. I think Lucky Hit felt a bit floaty.
Yep.
If I'm being honest. The ball physics weren't quite as solid as Shenmue 2. And I thought they possibly had too many mini games in the hour. I get why, but I'll tell you one of my favorites is bloody Whack-A-Mole. I can't go playing Shenmue 3 or a stream live. I have to play it. I love it. It goes back to what Peter's saying. I'm doing it because I'm having fun and I want to beat my high score, and I get really shitty when I don't. And for me, it's excellent, and the fishing actually as well, which we haven't really talked about. I know the 1,000 fish thing is a pain in the ass.
Yeah, log chopping as well. God,
oh yeah, log chopping as well, which
I did mention,
which we forget about. And I mean, the fishing's great fun. It's so relaxing. The forklift, I thought they did very, very well. It worked very nicely.
They just got a bit of everything. It's like you naming all these games. And
we got spoiled.
Yeah, we did.
We got spoiled in that front. And again, like you're talking about the fishing and the forklifting. It's not just you go and do it. There's your cash. It was all interlinked. You had the you had the fishing, and then you had the tournament to get the jacket. Boy, did that feel good getting that jacket. You had the forklift, and then you realized, hey, we're bringing new arcades to the town, and these boxes, they're equating to little figurines that appear in the Sea of Shenmue building. I love that interconnectivity. That is possibly one of the best things overall in the game. I think they did.
Yeah, it's just so well thought out, really.
Yeah,
and they don't tell you about that stuff as well. It's like that is the element of Shenmue, like the element of discovery. This wasn't here before. You just carried a box. I remember doing that. You're unlocking stuff as you go along. I think they did a great job on the minigames. I'd agree. Next up, music. So obviously it's a big thing. We love playing it on the show. We originally heard that Shenmue 1 and 2 only used around 40% or something like that of the original pull of music. I don't know how accurate that is, but still mind-blowing to me that that's a fact. And Shenmue 3 seemed to dig into some of that essentially 60% of unused material, notably some of the music that was lined up for Shenmue Online at one point, or some unused music that fans had discovered from the first two games as well. Also some brand new songs we never heard before. So what did you guys think of Shenmue 3's soundtrack? And what are your thoughts on the locations and places in the game where they use that music? Matt?
Oh, I'm going to have to break this down, I think, into sort of two sections for me. I think the actual soundtrack for Shenmue 3 is top-notch, 10 out of 10. Love it. It's fantastic. Its implementation in certain areas, I think, leaves a little bit to be desired. I mean, you had, for example, the darts music going into a random shop, which I thought was really... some of the music placement was a bit odd. And that's me being completely upfront and honest with you. I don't know who made those calls or whatnot, but some of them, again, flip it, some of the music is excellent. I mean, when you arrive in Niaowu and you've got that Flow of the Lihang River music going from Shenmue Online, that soundtrack with the arrival to Niaowu is perfect. I wouldn't change that for anybody. It's just inconsistent. It's just inconsistent, which... As good as the Shenmue music is, 10 out of 10, I think its implementation in actual Shenmue 3, I'd score it at an 8, but I think I'm being a little bit biased because I love the music of Shenmue so much.
Okay, so just to confirm, so if you're breaking that into 2, shall we just call it a 9?
Yeah, call it a 9 for an average's sake.
Okay, then. Peter, what do you think?
No, well, this is where we're going to disagree. I'm going to go lower, and I should be going way lower, but I'm not going to because there's other reasons. Music is both in TV, movie, and video game is up there as one of the biggest things for me. It sets the tone. The composer has to score what is happening on that screen. That essentially didn't happen for Shenmue 3. It was just a selection being picked from a pool to what potentially could fit this screen. So unlike the original two games and unlike the majority of video games out there, what you're seeing on screen isn't actually being scored by someone. It's just being inserted. So because of that, and then because as like a big fan of the series, it's confusing. Do you know? It's like I'm hearing this track from Electronic Shop in Wanzai, and I'm hearing it here. It just didn't. It was confusing, but at the same time, not only did it work, but the reason I'm going to give it a higher score than what I even feel I should is because once again, if you're looking at this pie as a whole, that cost them what, 0 on budget, 0.
Yeah,
they had them tracks sitting there. Whoever made the decision, be it Yusan himself, was able to just apply all these tracks to this game at no cost. And when you're working in such a confined budget of what he had, that's just a master stroke on his part. Of course, he didn't know it 20 years ago when the Shenmue orchestrations and compositions were all done, but it certainly came in handy. So I have to appreciate
It's
that.
an interesting point, though. Just want to interject and just say, do you reckon they might have known back in the day that we've created enough music here to cover the whole series that they were planning? I mean, why did they make so much if they didn't even have the game to go with that music?
Is that a question you want to explore?
Well, just briefly, if you think,
I think it was just extravagance.
Yeah.
I think they had the opportunity to create all that music, and with his high and the power that he had at the time and within Sega. Yeah, Yu Suzuki just went, do you know what? I want 500 music tracks because I'm going to go through each one and I'm going to find that exact one I want. Even if this one sounds a little bit like what I want the one I want. So go do that.
Yeah.
And the poor guys went off and did it. I think that he just, as you say, just went completely ham in that.
But that has worked out perfect.
Oh, it's worked out, yeah. Score-wise, I'll give it a 7. Burn in Mind. Yeah, Burn in Mind, I should be giving it lower because as great as it is to hear those old tracks, and great quality too, we're getting better quality for, like, if you're listening to a soundtrack on YouTube or anything like that of the original music, it's still the original music. Especially, or even in Niawu to that theme, do you know the Sega Saturn Shenmue music?
Yeah, that's what Matt was on about, the flow of the Lijiang River or something.
Yeah, that's always the Shenmue Saturn music.
Yeah.
It fits.
And it is an epic piece of music.
Yeah, it should work.
Yeah.
It should work. If you hadn't heard of it the first time, you would have been sitting up on your chair or on your sofa or wherever. Maybe, I don't know, maybe Shenmue 3 would be so much more enjoyable if we'd never even heard that music in the first place. We would be like, guys, listen to this music.
Yeah.
But we have already heard it for so many years now. It was on the Xbox Shenmue 2 disc. So we associate that with that, or so I think 7. I think 7's the first score that I can give it.
Okay, fair enough. So I want to talk about environments next. Ryo's continuous journey directly after the end of Shenmue 2, so he starts in Guilin, more specifically Bailu Village, before heading to the bustling port town of Niawu. So we were originally meant to be going to another location called Baisha, which was unfortunately cut from the game, but from the 2 locations that we did get, how well do you think they were designed, and did they still feel like Shenmue for you? Peter?
10 out of 10.
10 out of 10 on the environment.
That's a no-brainer.
Yeah.
Yep, that is a no-brainer. Alongside music, one of the absolute things I have always adored about the Shenmue franchise, which carries into Shenmue 3, is the look, the texture work, the atmosphere, the feel of a location that you go into. Bailu Village was the place I'd waited to visit for the best part of, 17 years. It was just, from an environmental standpoint, perfect. And it was even bigger than what I could have imagined it would have been. It actually branched out so much. The quality of the foliage, the design work, the weather system, that entire atmosphere, the fireflies around the second Shenmue tree down where the Grandmaster Fang is. Mm-hmm. I only noticed that in my second playthrough. I was just standing there, I can't remember the reason, and I didn't even notice. I was like, hang on, there's all these green fireflies flying around. The ambient noise of the wolves in the background, which Eden Shenfa talks about in Shenmue 2, the original Shenmue 2, all of that just comes together to make that environment just pure bliss. And then moving on to Niawu, you have the contradiction. You have that their version of a port city would be, the little things like the design of the yellow chairs in the waiting area of the ferry terminal. I'm a pure geek for that stuff. I love that. The texture work, the wooden texture work of the red huge pillars that hold up the street signs. All the shops, all the vendors, the items they're selling. I just have so much appreciation for the effort that went into that aspect of the game that it is an easy 10. One last thing I will say, and then I'll let Matt jump in on this. You asked about if it followed from the first 2 games.
Yeah.
And I've had a long time to think about this, and it does to an extent. Particularly in Niawu, it got me thinking about certain parts of that area. For example, Blossom Road. at the very top there, whenever you can run up to the temple and you can run past the Sheev Shenmue building and things like that.
Mm-hmm.
It's very wide. Those steps are extremely wide, and that whole area is very open plain. You also have the shops. The shops are all open plain as well. You can literally just run up a couple of steps and you're in. You exit out again. And it got me thinking, one of the reasons why I kind of had a bit of an unsteady feeling about that, and the conclusion I came to, was that the first two games did a very good job, probably unintentionally, but that was the nature of the beast. The first two games did a very good job of claustrophobia. Whenever you left your Yamanose home, or your house, in Yamanose, it was all very small and inward. You know, Dobuita was the same. It was a very narrow, to an extent, main street. Whenever you go into every shop, you had to open a door. Now, fair enough, you did have a loading screen out of necessity, but when you went into the shop, you felt like you were in that shop. Whatever was going outside in Dobuita on the main street was away from you. In Niaowu, and even Bailu Village as well, you know, you can walk into Tailgate store or the arcade. There's no doors. So you kind of feel like you're still just within that area. You're not isolated to what the room you're in, or the building you're in. I kind of had to come to terms with accepting that that's just part of the nature of the beast now, and that Shenmue had to go in that direction, because obviously you're not going to have loading screens and things like that. But even though I'm giving it a solid 10 out of 10, I think they nailed that perfectly. I do miss that sense of claustrophobia, of really being inside, having to open a door and go inside. When even at the harbour, yes, you have that big area, but then, you know, you go down the back where the late number warehouses are, and it's all very, it's all very containery. You know, you can only move so much down that end. And then obviously when you're driving the forklift, it's all very narrow and things like that. Shenmue had this great thing of pushing you in to where you were. Even in Hong Kong, in the streets of Hong Kong, you're just surrounded by these huge buildings, you know? It's very tight, very narrow, very intimate. Shenmue 3 had very open plain. And I just have to kind of accept that that's just now where the story has went, particularly because you're in rural China.
Yeah.
And that's just the way it is now. But absolutely, 10 out of 10. It was possibly the best part of the game for me.
I think they nailed the environments generally. I thought Bailu Village, for me, is one of the best environments in the series, period. I really do. I think when you play the game for the first time and you step into the village square and Bailu Village, and it pans with Ryo walking down the steps, and you see the children practicing martial arts with the teacher, you see the guy up on the logs doing practicing martial arts, and it sort of pans around the village, and it feels lived in. And that for me is very Shenmue. It just felt perfect. And then you talk about the little details, like when it rains, you can see like Ryo's footprints as you're walking down the muddy path towards the village. It's little things like that. The rain running down the roofs as the heavy rain comes in. It was perfect. And also the colour. And this is, I think, where video games a little bit these days, certainly the mainstream ones, have lost a bit of character. For me, Shenmue 3 is colourful. It is bright. I mean, you've got that big, bright AM2 style blue sky. Where do you find that in games these days? Where do you find the range of colour in the flowers, in the trees, and everything? And then you've got the wind moving, all the foliage. It's perfect. Bailu Village, perfect. Niaowu is very different. I think, for me, that's where it's not quite the same. It doesn't feel quite as lived in, quite as tight for me, but I would give it I'd give it a 10 out of 10 if I'm honest.
Okay, that's fine. And I mean, you've kind of, sorry, do you want to say something else, Peter, before we move on?
Yeah, I was just going to say, it took me my second playthrough, that moment you're talking about in Bailu Village, 100%. It took me my second playthrough to have that moment in Niaowu. And you're 100% right whenever you say it doesn't feel as lived in. Like I say, it's very open, it's very wide. So with a couple of NPCs walking down the street, it feels very barren. But there's one exception to that in Niaowu, and that is Vendor Avenue. And I had that moment. I had that same Bailu Village moment. I was on my second playthrough. I was shopping. Do you know what I mean? I was shopping because that's what the game wanted of me to do for the task that I was doing. I wanted a move scroll. So to get that move scroll, I had to go shopping. I had to find the items at the vendors. And it was at nighttime. It was raining. So that look like you're saying, the rain, the texture on Rio's jacket, it was dripping off the vendors. But mixed with that, you had the ambient music going on of the shopkeepers, aye, and all that stuff. It was very populated. There was a couple of kids running about. You had the vendors themselves. You had the steam coming off the bun vendor and mixing. And I obviously it didn't do this in the game, but it was mixing. In my head, it was just the steam. I could feel it. It was as Rio. It was mixing with the rain. And I could more or less do what Yu Suzuki has talked about in interviews. I could smell what was going on in that scene as if I was there. That was the Niaowu moment I was so grateful to have to equal the Bailu moment. I couldn't believe it. I just stood there for a moment, and I wish I could try and get that moment back again in the game. But as you guys know, trying to get it to rain Niaowu is an absolute nightmare.
Just so random. Okay, so since you're both sort of discussing, or you've already discussed the graphic kind of aspects to that from the environments, let's just have a quick score for this particular one. So graphics, what would you give out of 10? Peter first.
I'm gonna bring it down a bit because of some of the NPCs and stuff. I was never the greatest fan of who's now become dubbed as Mr. Muscle. It and then his little sidekick, the guy from the trailers. You have to accept that. You'd be very flippant to ignore that, even as people who love the franchise. You kind of do have to be fair. But graphics in general, things like that let it down. But at the same time, the texture work and the bright, like Matt was saying, the vibrant colors, it brings it up a game where I'm at that point where 7 feels a little bit too cheap, but 8 feels a little bit too generous.
It is just the characters are really at the end of the day, in it,
So you're just looking for the graphics of the characters, really, on a score?
No, I mean that's affecting the score. I mean, you give the environment a 10, and you spoke very fondly of how the textures and all the ambience and everything graphically created those environments to be so beautiful looking. So it's kind of only the characters, the caricature kind of style of some of them. Very hit and miss in terms of which characters look amazing and which ones not so much. So, I mean, I'm trying to push in the direction of an 8 rather than a 7.
I think we'll just split it down the post. Matt started this scary venture. I'll go with 7.5.
7.5. Okay. So, Matt, score from you before we move on.
7, being honest. I thought the main character models were generally very good. I thought Shenhua, I know her model and clothing divides opinion, but I didn't mind it. I thought Rio looked pretty good. I thought Landy was spot on.
Landy was absolutely a really good model. Yeah,
spot on. He was fantastic, and I actually thought the Ren model was excellent. It's let down by inconsistencies across the rest of the game, which is understandable given the context of development and everything else to go with it. So, yeah, for those inconsistencies, I'd say a 7.
Okay. We spoke a little bit about it earlier, the combat. So it was a massive part of the first 2 games, taking the Virtua Fighter engine to allow players to experience that fluid fighting system. However, in Shenmue 3, the team was forced to create a whole brand new fighting energy. So just briefly, got any thoughts and a rating on the combat in the game, Matt?
Oh, it's a toughie. I didn't start to appreciate the combat more until probably my 3rd playthrough, actually. I was playing it on stream and continued it sort of privately. Mm-hmm. When I started picking out different combos and linking moves together, it flowed better. I won't beat around the bush around it. The fighting system needs work. It's not finished, but I think, quite frankly, they were trying to get a system in to a game with a lot of other things going on as well. So I think they deserve immense credit for having the bollocks to even try it. And to pull it off as well as they did, they deserve credit. It does lack some weight in terms of the hit detection and some of the animations there. I missed throws, but it wasn't a deal breaker. And the biggest thing for me with fighting was it needed a bit more, a bit more guidance around it in terms of how it worked. Because you've got a tutorial on the screen of smashing buttons. And I don't think it lent itself initially to that experimental phase of trying different moves with different fights, etc. early on, whereas the old system did. So I'm torn. I enjoyed it. It needs work, but I would probably I'm probably being generous when I give it a 7.
Okay, that's fair. That's fair. I know you did think quite fondly of the combat system. Actually, if you give it chance, it ages better than the initial first impressions.
Yeah.
You're so used to the first 2 games combat, so it's jarring at first having to dodge and whatnot. But yeah, it's a fair assessment, I think. And Peter, have you got a score for me on the combat?
Yeah, I'm going to be more just honest with it and say 6.
6.
Yeah. In terms of attacking, Ryu's animations were fine.
Mm-hmm.
They were great, actually. The amount of move scrolls that were in there and the amount of different move sets you had for attacking with just your arms and legs. Matt mentioned a word there which I basically addressed the fighting system in Shenmue 3. I try to appreciate on every level that I can, mostly in terms of how much it costs to get a couple of actors who are trained into a studio, which also costs, to both have the attacking and reaction animation. That is a huge amount of dollar signs that go into motion capture. So I have to take that into account with trying to appreciate what they were able to do in Shenmue 3 with the fighting system. But it is what it is. I'm gonna go with 6. It has little nuances in there which again, are just so Suzuki-esque. Like if you're really low on health and you move it out of the way at the correct time, it's going to give you a little special animation and a slowdown.
That was cool.
Instance for you to land a blow. And I do have appreciation with how many move scrolls are in the game, and also what it takes to get those move scrolls. You have to do a lot of exploration in the game in terms of, like I said, shopping and things like that. I have to take that all into account. So if I didn't have that, it could be an even lower score. So I think it's fair, a little bit more hard on it, but I think it's fair if I'm just going to go with a 6. There's, like Matt said, there's so much room for improvement, but at the same time, it's a Kickstarter game. They did what they could. I firmly believe that. I think 6 is fair.
And they've got a good ground base there to expand on that in the future anyway. Mm-hmm. So Shenmue's got an abundance of QTEs, of course, touted as bringing them basically into the mainstream in games as well. So how do we feel about how they were implemented in 3? And I'm going to give it to you first, Peter.
Okay. Aye. Of course, we all know what we're going to say here. QTs, it would have been perfect. They would have been fine. But whoever made the timing decision on them just needs to just pick a different career path. This video games are not for you, buddy. Who's playing this? A taskbot? I mean, come on. I've had this debate with I think it's Satrurio, in the staff Discord. He doesn't have a problem with them. Really? Mm. I've tried even to memorize them and I'm mashing and I'm still feeling 1 or 2. I understand the argument, okay?
It seems like there's a little bit of an input delay, don't there, at times? Like, I remember on the duck, I'm pressing the button that's on the screen and sometimes you still fail.
Yeah, I mean, catching the ducks is right. I mean, I understand the argument of, okay, there's a lot of funny cutscenes and they obviously maybe wanted you to see them. That's just making up excuses for it. As a player, as someone who's sitting here playing a video game, the fundamental feeling you want as somebody playing a video game is that they're enjoying it, that they're happy, that they're thrilled to be playing it. Having me feel a QTE is not going to make me feel good.
And in fact, those sort of scenes are ones that you'd want to discover in a second playthrough or third playthrough. Like, I'm thinking of the watermelon scene in Shenmue 2. If you nail that the first time, you're a badass, you punch the watermelon. But in fact, next playthrough, you might, I'll see what happens if I let the watermelon hit you. And then you get that comedy moment.
Yeah. And not even comedy moments, just different outcomes. Yeah. If you're someone who loves playing video games and you're really getting into one, and like say that even the very start of Shenmue 2, whenever you're chasing Wong, if you feel at different points in that QT, there's a little different cutscene. Now, it's not even funny, it's not even comical, but it's just like cool. Wow, they thought of that. This is awesome. I'm kind of actually, okay, I failed that first one and that was, okay, you just deal with it, so I'll know what's coming next. Oh no, I failed the second one. Oh look, there's a different thing. In Shenmue 3, it's just you're doomed to failure all the time unless you just know what button's coming.
Yeah, and it's one-shot failure.
Or you've just memorized it from failing at it. Yeah. Oh man, I mean, score-wise?
This is going to bring the score down, I think.
Jeez. Yeah. because they did go to the and some of them are extremely funny.
In fact, as well, I don't know why, but some of the cutscenes where you're like chasing some of the thugs and stuff, I feel like the graphics are even better for some reason. I'm thinking of that one where he tips the bucket of fish, and just the way the fish sort of hit the wooden plank sort of structure, it looked real life. I don't understand what's going on where the graphics suddenly have a boost in those sort of cutscenes, but does that boost your score at all? That kind
even to be really nerdy about it, I know exactly what you're talking about. Even the Foley dub on that, so the sound effect dub of the fish just on the wood, like the sliminess of those fish, all that effort was put into such things like that. But yet, did they want you to feel it? Was that the idea behind it? Where it's like, oh, this will give the player a laugh. It didn't give me a laugh. It made me feel like a loser. It made me feel like I failed. I loved the QTs in the original games. It made you feel like you were directing a movie yourself. You were having an input on a cutscene. You had to do this for it to play. Like you were kind of hitting a button to progress a movie, which was really good in direction. The Shenmue did QTs possibly the best in any video game. But with this one, I'm going to go 5. I was going to go 4, but I was going to go 4 because I really do not want to be made to feel like a loser playing a video game. And that's what happens every time I feel a cutscene. It's an eye-rolling moment. But because of the cutscenes, because of the comedy in it, which some were crackers. I mean, come on, the fire extinguisher. I can't. I'll go with a 5. It's very generous, but
okay,
5.
Matt, I'll share those sentiments.
Peter summed it up very, very well. The timing window is a pain in the ass. Yeah. My God. And also I missed that they didn't always branch off. Some of the cutscenes, as you say, the fire extinguisher one, where he gets twatted in the face with a log as well, or he falls into the river off the boats when the bird squawks at him. They're really funny. But I missed, I know, in Shenmue 2, for example, if you failed like a small element of Q2E, it'd change ever so slightly so that you failed that little bit, but then you recover, and then you're a badass because you recovered.
Yeah.
I know, it just missed that for me, and the timing window was infuriating, especially on Nightmare mode. I could have smashed a controller. So, 4.
Okay.
And could I just add how generous I was with my 5? Because if you're including QT Fighter, the arcade machine, with those fake outs as well, I'm including those. So my 5's very generous, but I'm still going to stick with it.
Fair enough, guys. Right, last one now. DLC. Briefly mention this if you want. So obviously we've got the Bailu-chan hunt, we've got the battle rally, and we've also got the casino boat thing going on there with a couple of little side quests that take place in there. So on that front, I think it's Matt next. So what do you think? What are you going to score the DLC?
It's a tough one.
Oh, and sorry, we've also got the Zhang.
Oh yeah, of course.
Side thing as well. So it's a four pieces of DLC.
It's a tough one.
Yeah.
Oh, what? He gave it a 4.
No. I didn't give anything.
My God! I was about to go. Man, that's bad.
No, I was saying that I was surprised actually that there was 4 pieces of content. Actually, I forgot about the Zhang thing.
So I mean, I'll break them down quickly into sort of individual bits. I mean, the Bailu-chan and the battle rally I loved every second of those. They were excellent.
Yeah.
Thank you very much. Whoever thought of that idea? Well, it's very Yu Suzuki, isn't it? And it had an outrun feel to it at the start line with the battle rally. I don't know. It felt like an arcade game. I absolutely adore it. Fantastic. Exactly. It's outrun. It's outrun.
All day. Even down to the logo.
Yeah, bloody fantastic. Mm-hmm. The story DLC, I'll be honest, it felt like they shoehorned it into DLC. It was blatantly cut from the main story. I didn't really see the point of it. They could have just left it as DLC, but I know they want to recover money, etc. It's a little bit scathing of me, but it's how I feel about it. The boat stuff, the boat stuff has some funny moments in it. And I know, and it wasn't particularly politically correct for fat shaming, shall we say. My word, I'm surprised people didn't pick up on that more on social media, quite frankly. So it had some funny moments in it, but I don't know, I wasn't that enthralled by the DLC. My score is dragged up because of the battle rally, because of the Bailu-chan. I'm giving it a very, very generous 7.
Okay.
But I let me go on record and say it is the Bailu Chan and the Battle Rally that are pulling that up. Believe me.
Yeah. Do we agree with that, Peter? Do you think that is probably the best part of the DLC of the 3?
Nope.
No.
Nope.
Okay.
Disagree. DLC was 10 out of 10 for me.
Okay.
Absolutely 10 out of 10. I mean, first of all, you have the Bailu Chan hunt. The Chobu-chan hunt in the main game was awesome enough, so any excuse to do that again was sensational. Not only that, but they improved upon it by giving you a little indicator. Some of them are really tough, and I love stuff like that, especially now that you're exploring an area that you know so well. I love that. And going back to what I was talking about, and this will branch out into the other DLCs, which I'll come to in a moment. It was 2015. It was not long after Shenmue 3 was announced that Yu Suzuki did the China Chupax conference. And it was in that he went into detail, and he went into it more and more and more. And like I said earlier in the podcast, spoilers, he told you what the game was going to be. This game is so interconnected, the economy, everything like that. Whenever you did the Bailu Chan hunt, you got items. You got in-game items, you got costumes there, which I actually fell in love with. Who ever thought you would fall in love with Ryo changing his iconic leather jacket? But I love the outfits. I love them. I changed them all the time in my second playthrough. I loved them. The shoes, pants, jeans, tops. You got the Bailu Chan jacket. I love the jackets. My God, they were amazing. So and that's just one part of it. The Battle Rally, same again. You got items. It was so well done. It was themed. You had little health mushrooms, which I didn't even realize until I was playing it and wondering why I was getting nowhere. It became that was probably one of the things that you could argue even brought Shenmue 3 into modern day gaming, because that was essentially a speed run. You had to do that as quickly as you could, so there was a challenge there. Then you had they were doing these kind of in order. You had the Zong side quest, and again, this is where I come at it from a different Shenmue fan point of view. Earlier, I was talking about how I really missed Shenmue 3 being claustrophobic. I missed that inner, feeling that you were surrounded by everything. The boat story, okay, it was just a little story, but see the Zong storyline. You got to go into the Blue Spider hideout, and finally, it was like Kowloon. You had to open doors and explore rooms, and just that feeling brought me right back to Shenmue 2. I loved that claustrophobic. What's behind this door? It brought me back to when I first discovered, whenever I first seen images of Shenmue. What's behind that door? What's waiting for me? Is there anything I can interact with? Who lives in this room? Who's been in this room? That's the world of Shenmue to me. And then the storyline was great, having to do the Chawan signs again, and you had the hidden trophies where you got different items from doing different Chawan signs. That really engaged the community to try and work out, okay, what sign do you need to make at this location to get this trophy? And then you get a random item, which Ryo has an absolutely hilarious response to, like, what's this? A plate of oysters? What? And then finally we have the Merry Boat Cruise. Again, not too much in terms of story, but I loved it. First of all, you had the doll breaking. It just felt very Japanese. He was trying to win that doll for his sister, and it broke, and his reactions were just so very Japanese-like. And then as you're trying to explore the boat for the little boy, you get to go down to the belly of the boat, and you have all the doors, and it's eerie music. And again, claustrophobic. You have all these rooms of guests who are staying on the boat. You have random items in some of them, and they're all themed. Like this person here, all the food's just cluttered about, and then you have this room here which is full of fashion clothes. Is a person here on a fashion trip? Was the woman you did side quest for in the Aoi, did you have a room on this boat? And then, unlike the Save Shenmue building, you had the wheel. And of course this was like the trophies, but again, I loved getting all those costumes, especially the gis. I swear, when I got that green gi, and then combined it with, I think it was just a white t-shirt, you had that original artwork look for Ryo Hazuki. Do you know the one where it's like
the green,
is it Miyawaki-san's? Yeah. Just that feeling of finally, after all these years and looking at that photograph or that drawing so many times, finally we have Ryo in his green gi and his white t-shirt. And every time I had to go through training after that, or even whenever I had to fight in the Rose Garden, I still had to do that trophy. I wore that, and I don't, as a pure Shenmue nerd, I love that. Absolutely love that. That's why the DLC is 10 out of 10 for me.
Fair enough. That's a good assessment there. And just while you were talking, Peter, I went through both of your scores there, and we've got a final overall total for Shenmue 3. This is Peter's review. He's got a 7.55. So it's because of that half point that you guys gave. These sound a little bit weird. But Matt is 7.35. So you both, I could say, Peter's more like a 7.5. Matt's a little bit lower than that, like a 7. But there you go, guys. IGN, GameSpot, eat your hearts out.
But like I said, we're not acknowledging it as the greatest game ever. But in modern day gaming, a 7 and 8 is not a bad score whatsoever. If you even think back to the Dreamcast days, if there was a game that was 7 or 8 out of 10, it was still, especially if it was the 8 out of 10, I think it was getting, high kudos for being that. The whole idea of Shenmue 3 being a bad game, way off the mark. It's completely incorrect.
I think 7 out of 10s these days are marked very differently to what a 7 out of 10 was when we were young gamers. I think people look at a 7 out of 10 now and go, whereas back when we were growing up, 7 out of 10, you thought, this is solid, this could be all right, I might really enjoy this. I know the 7, the way it's judged is very harsh now, I think.
Yeah, I'd be fair in saying that I probably got more favourite games that have probably been a 7 in the past than I have games that are 10 out of 10, judging by, reviewers and media. So I do agree that, that 7 out of 10, for me personally, is a very good high score. And I think overall, I've probably got more 7s in my top 10 than I have 10 out of 10 games. So that's great, guys. It's interesting actually to understand where both your heads are in terms of going from Shenmue 3 as we head into the discussion on Shenmue 4 next. But first, let's take another musical break with your Shenmue 3 music pick, Peter. What you got for us?
Oh, okay. So for this, I have chosen just one of the tracks that I really adored when I first heard it. Because it was just, what can I say? I'm just, I'm an old school techno dance type person. I love that music, always have done. So when I first heard this in the game, it not only had that connotation to it, but also just this very Japanese arcade feel to it. And it took me back to even when I was in Japan. And it's the second track of the Chobu-chan Fighter. Not the first one, the second one, when you get to stage 2. It just has this thumping bass line and this awesome riff that runs through it. I just adore it.
And what's the song called?
That's just basically the title, Chobu-chan Track 2.
Chobu-chan Track 2.
Stage 2, yeah.
Yep. Okay, well, let's play that now. Welcome back. That was Chobu-chan Fighter Stage 2 from Shenmue 3 soundtrack, and this is where the juicy part of the conversation will hopefully be. So let's talk Shenmue 4, guys. Whilst we literally know next to nothing about it, but briefly, Matt, can you remind us where we're at in terms of, say, Cedric's mention to you and also what we're trying to do as fans to help get our voices heard again?
Yeah, absolutely. So as many listeners will probably recall now, I interviewed Cedric just at the end of last year, and I published the interview on Christmas Day, actually, as a Christmas present to everybody. Cedric, when we were talking about the status of Shenmue 4 at the time, said that they had some material ready to pitch to publishers. That included some video and a couple of playable little bits, but he didn't obviously go into too much detail of how much and what. So we know a concept for Shenmue 4 exists. We know that they were looking to pitch to publishers. What we don't know is whether those pitches have happened or not, and what any outcome of those pitches were. So as fans, sort of building on that, every 4th of the month, we use the hashtag Let's Get Shenmue 4 to keep the voice out there on social media. So you can tweet art, you can tweet music, whatever it is, use that hashtag Let's Get Shenmue 4. And the idea is that we keep the name out there and we keep pushing towards a Shenmue 4. Because at the end of the day, if we don't stay vocal, we will not get a Shenmue 4. So it is honestly that simple.
I did see, was it Jason Schreier? He mentioned a little while ago about that stuff about Cedric mentioning to you about the pitching and everything, that we kind of over-exaggerated it at the time. So
I mean, that was Romain or somebody?
Was it Romain? It was, yeah, you're right.
Romain Mahout.
Yeah.
I mean, I don't know whether it's being exaggerated or not. I mean, I'm not an industry insider. I don't know. I'm just going on the fact of what I have been told publicly by Cedric, and that is out there, that they have something to pitch.
Yeah.
That's it. We don't know anything else.
No, I mean, we're not sure where things are, but hopefully at least it's moving steadily. Despite the COVID pandemic situation as well, it's like we said before, it's pushing things a year back.
I'm not too sure we can talk about that. I missed that discrepancy. What happened there?
It was a tweet going around, someone talking about Shenmue 4 never happening, and I tweeted back saying, well, they are pitching to publishers. And then Romain came back to say, oh, as far as I am aware, that's been exaggerated.
He's said from the last he heard or something.
Yeah.
They weren't even at that stage or something. They haven't even started work or something.
Yeah, I mean, with no insider knowledge, what do you think is the next logical step in this process of getting this game made? It's, of course, they're going to have something to show people. Otherwise, there isn't going to be a Shenmue 4. I mean, come on, look at Shenmue 1 and 2. You know, I mean, Shenmue 1 was being developed and at more or less the same time, and Shenmue 2 was being developed. This is Yu Suzuki we're talking about. I think he's a very clever man. I think whether it be cut content from Baisha, I don't know, or, you know, just an example of gameplay in a generic area with improvements they might have made.
Mm-hmm.
I don't believe. I don't know. I believe Cedric all the way. I believe they have something, either on a movie format or playable format, to walk into a publisher, into a meeting and go, we would like to make Shenmue 4. We would like to have you guys on board. Here's what we have to demonstrate that we can do that. I firmly believe that.
And we mentioned it before. You know, that cutscene at the end of the game, the end of Shenmue 3, walking across the Great Wall, it's supposed to be an FMV, so it's not even the gameplay there, but they have gone out of the way to create that environment, create the wall and everything, and they're not just going to do that to then turn around and convert it into a 20 megabyte bloody video file and whack it at the end of the game. That is something they've gone out of the way to produce, and you know, I think that is a telltale sign that they have a little bit more than they had at the end of Shenmue 3. That makes sense. But talking loosely now, Peter, what do you think are our actual chances of getting a Shenmue 4? And do you think that the anime, when it is actually released, can help to secure that fourth title in the series? Bearing in mind, if, you know, like your plan doesn't happen where they announce them both at the same time. But say if the anime comes first, do you think that will go part way into helping Shenmue 4?
Well, the anime itself is a double-edged sword, though, isn't it? I mean, it does offer an out of completing the story. We all know that if a game doesn't get greenlit. Which is a great thing. You know, for years we've been screaming on the forums, God, just release it as a manga, just release it as a comic book, just release it as a novel. We just want to hear how this story pans out, which I disagree with. I've never been really on board with that. Shenmue is a game. Shenmue is a video game. Shenmue is an experience. It's a work of art that you play and you experience. It only could, in my mind, be thoroughly enjoyed to finish the saga as a video game. And Yu Suzuki is even in agreement with that. He only wants to see Shenmue finished as a video game also. The anime is a fantastic entity for us to get as Shenmue fans. Let's make no mistake about that. We have not just a little bit of Shenmue content, we have an abundance of Shenmue content, borderline mainstream Shenmue content coming our way, which is fantastic. That will absolutely no doubt help the case for a Shenmue video game even more. you know, the video game fans of Shenmue have been about a lot longer than what will hopefully be anime fans of Shenmue. So I think it'll do absolutely nothing but help its case. Will we get Shenmue 4? Of course, you have to believe. We'll never give up the faith. That's why we have the tweetathon every month. That's why we make sure to go out of our way to keep the Shenmue series alive. I mean, even if it's just word of mouth, even if it's just by making a bit of clatter on Twitter every month. We did that before in the past. It worked. We will continue to do that. If we didn't do that, then you may as well say Shenmue is dead. That's why the fans are so important in contributing every month to the tweetathon, to sharing their experiences of playing the game. Do I think it's a hard sell to publishers? Possibly, yes, but it's not impossible. Shenmue 3 proved that you can do Shenmue on a modest budget, and it was a modest budget by today's standards. And like we've talked about privately, I mean, even if it has to be that way, that's fine. But you already have the engine there. You already have the characters there, the animation, the script, the mechanics. Everything is already there. If you can make just little improvements to those, maybe a little bit of extra mocap. The voice recordings, as we heard from the Bill Black interview, do cost an element of money, but he's also on board to, you know, taking on the role now. He's moved on from the corporation he talked about, and he thinks he could time budget it better. There is absolutely ample opportunity for Shenmue 4 to exist on a modest budget and still be a worthy successor and hopefully completion of the story of Shenmue. There is a worry I do have, and his name is Yu Suzuki, because that man doesn't settle for second best.
Yeah, I mean, I have got this point a little bit later, some of the stuff that you're talking about right now. I mean, it's fair enough, you can carry on talking about it, it's no problem at all.
No, fair away, go ahead, we'll stick to the structure.
Okie dokie. I mean, I was going to ask Matt if he's got anything else to add about the anime and things like that going towards Shenmue 4.
The anime being successful, assuming we don't have the joint launch thing, I think it's imperative to the series going forward. It makes those conversations with publishers easier, that they can lean on a successful anime and go, you know, look at this target market, look how many people have bought into this anime, look how many people have then converted over to the games, and then you can have an ecosystem with it in terms of merchandise, in terms of, we're all suckers for it, aren't we?
Yeah.
Merchandise, we buy all of it. So if the more people that are there to buy merchandise, to buy games, it makes those conversations a lot easier. And I agree with what Peter's saying. For a Shenmue 4, I would love them to use the engine they've got and just improve on it, because it's a solid engine. There's nothing glaringly wrong with it. It's just they ran out of money. So the things like the throws could be added in, the fighting system could be tightened up, some of the animations could be tightened up. It's not going to require a massive amount of overlay. I mean, I'll quote Ryan Payton when I interviewed him. He said 70% of the time they had developing Shenmue 3 went into the systems and all of those things before they then fleshed out everything else. Well, that work is now done. They can improve upon it. You're not going to be spending the time on those elements. You can go in on the other areas which need improvement. And the biggest thing for Shenmue 4 is for me, they have to go in hard on the story. Whether Shenmue 4 completes the saga or not, and I don't believe Yu Suzuki will want to complete it as Shenmue 4, but I do think it should be kept under consideration, considering you're running into risky business asking for a fifth game as well, depending on the success of a fourth game and potentially an anime. But it has to really engage the story now. It has to push it forward. It has to engage people. Because I think if it doesn't, then we're in a very tricky situation. Will Shenmue 4 happen? I mean, I believe it will. There's always an element of doubt. I mean, what we do know is obviously Shenmue 3 at least broke even, if not made a little bit of money. But did it meet sales targets for the publisher? We don't know, assuming not. But then were those sales targets necessarily appropriate? Again, it's a discussion to be had elsewhere. I think we are in a better position than we were. Let's not beat around the bush about it. We have got Shenmue content coming out of our ears.
Yeah.
And there is potential in this franchise that if it's handled correctly, could really... It's never going to be a mainstream game, let's be honest. But it could be profitable. it could do well. It could expand the fan base and create an ecosystem of merchandise, games, and the like. So, yes, I do think it will probably happen, but there is always going to be an element of doubt, given especially the history that we've got.
Yeah, great answer, man. I mean, we are hoping that fans are going to buy into the Shenmue series, even coming from the anime, you know, if we can drive up those potential sales in the future. Because, like you say, it's not a massive juggernaut of a profit machine, so we do need every little bit of help that we can get. So, Matt's just touched upon a couple of things there, Peter, but thinking ahead into Shenmue 4, based on what we discussed previously for Shenmue 3, so what do you want to see them actually expand on, change, or improve for Shenmue 4?
I honestly, like Matt said, the story. I honestly thought Shenmue 3 was fantastic in terms of its environments. The economy system particularly really helped elevate that. I had a ball, like I said, shopping around, the choice of vendors. All like I think I even read at the time some people kind of complained about all these inanimate objects, but they're not inanimate. All these little collectibles, the toy capsules, you know, there was side quests based on them, things like that. That doesn't need expanding whatsoever. That's awesome. That's already done. Like Matt was saying, the systems are already in place. Just go in hard on the story. And okay, I'll say this. Whilst obviously I haven't read them, I do have in my possession the Shenmue 1 and 2 script sets. I think, judging by the thickness of them, that those games had some excellent writing staff on them. They branched out as far as they could beyond those scripts in terms of characters and subplots and things like that. I think Shenmue 3 failed in that area.
Right, so you think that you're saying that your scripts are maybe thinner than the actual Shenmue 1 and 2 games are?
Yeah, considering the content, especially in 2, that we all know of how grandeur a game that is.
Yeah.
I don't know if that script would cover that.
Is there a chance that there could be like a later script that, you know, how Yu Suzuki's chopped and changed the chapters so much that perhaps,
possibly,
you know, part of Shenmue 2 is in a later script, for example?
Possibly. That's why I wasn't even sure if I legitimately got what I was promised in the Kickstarter. I was promised the Shenmue 2 1 and 2 script set, right?
Yeah.
But as we all know, the Shenmue saga is broken down into chapters. Chapter 1 is Yokosuka, obviously. Chapter 2, on my script, there is Hong Kong. Shenmue 2 covers Hong Kong, Kowloon, and Guilin. I ain't got Guilin for a start. I know that for a fact. But I haven't read them. It's 10 pence a word I've had quoted for translation. Wow. I am paying hundreds of pounds to get them things translated.
Hopefully my Japanese studies can help out at some point.
Maybe.
Just a quick question, Peter. So you own those scripts, and was the 3 backers who were given that as a reward? So has Yu Suzuki actually got those books anymore? Has he got his own copies still?
Oh yeah, they're numbered.
Okay, so he's not just got like 3 to 16 or something. He's like, fuck.
No, that's what I was concerned. That's what I was even talking to one of the other guys about before we got them. I was sitting going, if Yu Suzuki would have OCD like I think he does, is he okay with just like an entire Shenmue Saga script set out there without the missing first 2? You know, I couldn't live that. Just send them the whole lot. Go on. We trust these guys. Go on. You can have the whole shebang. Thank you very much.
Yeah.
Didn't happen. But they're basically on the back of them. There's that, you know, like a post office, you know, like a little date stamp.
Oh, yeah.
Like, you know, it's like one of those little date stamps, and I can't remember what my numbers are. I think the first one actually is 072. So there's a lot of a lot of copies. If you think about it, that script had to speak to everybody on the dev team, you know.
Yeah.
So,
and they had such a big team at that time that, you know, it's probably hundreds. Yeah. Perhaps.
So I haven't translated them. I don't know what's on that last page of the Shenmue 2 one. But there's absolutely no way that game equals to that script set. And I think that's a testament to the writing team that they had on Shenmue 2. I'm not too sure. I think there was like up to 16, 17 writers on Shenmue 2 in the credits.
It was around that. And I think there was 3 on Shenmue 3.
3. I mean, 3.
And we've actually had a little bit of a discrepancy with that as well, because we were touted one of the original writers to come back into the series, and then, you know, when we get to the credits, the writer is like a guy that no one's ever heard of before.
Oh, Masahiro Yoshimoto. He was the original, like in the Kickstarter.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah,
Yoshimoto-san. Yeah, I don't know what happened to him. Unless he's just being credited because he did write the original scripts, and obviously these games are based on them.
Yeah.
So he has to be given credit.
That could be it. That could be it, yeah.
But yeah, for Shenmue 3, what it was, I genuinely feel that's where the ball was dropped in terms of subplots, writing, character development. It was the lack of writers on the project.
Yeah, definitely. I mean, Peter's point actually around the scripts is a valid one, actually talking about the development of games as we know. When I was talking to Ryan back last year, he said that Rio's journey is mapped out. They know what he's going to do and where he's going to do it roughly. Obviously, things can change over time. But what he was saying is it's how you flesh out the B characters and the C characters, which aren't necessarily written down at the time, which obviously Shenmue 3 suffered for because they didn't have the team to do the B and the C characters to the extent I think the first two games do.
Mm-hmm.
So you both kind of touched upon this earlier, and I interrupted you, Peter, sorry, but
no, you're all good.
Now, we do expect to see them hopefully reusing these assets, the engine, all the mechanics from Shenmue 3 into Shenmue 4, save on budget, that sort of stuff. But I do know that Ezra did mention to you, Matt, in the interview that Yu Suzuki, he's got this particular vision. He's always looking to go that extra mile. And I think he was a little bit disappointed with some of the fan feedback at the time. And so, he's got that kind of mindset now where he's potentially even wanting to restart the whole thing again from scratch, or, perhaps go into the Unreal 5 engine now, which could be a possibility. So there's choices out there, but obviously going at it from a financial point of view, do you think it's wise or even at all possible to not just go too mental and, just work with what they already have now? Peter, do you want to get into that?
I'll bring me into it. Okay. I think it's a wrong move. You've had to ask a lot of Shenmue fans themselves alone to get on board with this new look, this new Shenmue look. We've been so used to the Dreamcast graphics for the best part of 15, 16 years. And now we have these new graphics, these new control mechanisms and things like that. Are you really then going to just develop a brand new game engine and completely overhaul the look of another game? It's just going to make it even more jarring, I think. And gamers love familiarity. If you're coming into a sequel of a video game that you've played before, you love to see that they've included the things that you're used to, but then expanded upon them. I think it's just absolutely a no-brainer that he just takes that engine. You can improve it graphically. You can improve the texture work. You can improve the frame rate. You can improve the number of NPCs on screen. You can improve the weather system. You can do what you want, but within the confines of what you already have in place. I think, and I'm sorry, where is he getting both the time and the money to start from scratch? I'm not going to lie. I was concerned. I did read that, and I also read how he's looking to make it even more accessible to casual gamers by including waypoints and stuff. God, no.
I mean, obviously to the Shenmue fan base, a lot of those things are unnecessary. Like we mentioned with the side quest thing, where we just want to come across. There's a better word than that, but just come across things naturally. So yeah, I do get your point on that. That it's a little worrying to make it a little bit too mainstream of a game, and kind of it is at the end of the day a game for Shenmue fans, and that's what we had with Shenmue 3. We had sort of this a lot of elements of fan service, etc., to cater for the fans. I know Shenmue 4 is probably going to go away from that sort of fan service now, but to go a little bit too mainstream could be a mistake, do you think?
But this is the thing, it's hard to know where the man's headspace is at, because it's a complete battle of balance, and it now comes off as contradiction. On the one hand, he's Yu Suzuki, the ever uncompromising Yu Suzuki, I do things my way or the highway, but at the same time, it's like, oh, well, this game is for the fans. And then in Shenmue 4, you're saying, okay, we're kind of not going to do it as much for the fans anymore, but at the same time, I hear your concerns about the story. I'm going to make the next game more story-oriented. So it's all a game of contradictions. And I think if he's going to be pitching that to publishers, I think it's a very clever game he has to play in terms of striking the balance for us as fans to look forward to a game that we think will be great, but also to the publishers that they think that he's going to make the game that's going to sell.
I think he's governed by the team around him as well, and influential people that he works with. I think the message would have gone through to him about the story. I'd be surprised if it didn't. I think the message would have gone through about the systems and the things that may need improving. But it's an absolute no-brainer for me to go in and improve on the system you've already got. We know Unreal 5 is back compatible with Unreal 4. There shouldn't be a huge amount of work if he does want to explore the Unreal 5, that it's not going to deviate too much and cost too much money. So I'm all for that. But what I'm not for is, and this, I mean this in the greatest respect possible, wasting time building a new engine where actually there's not a huge amount wrong with the old one. And given that we, as a Shenmue community, want a fourth game, and let's be honest, Shenmue open world games are expensive to make, and Shenmue being a niche product doesn't lend itself to being able to obtain a big enough budget to make it open world and do all the things that I think Yu Suzuki would want to do, including rebuild a new engine. Whereas if you can cut out rebuilding the engine, just improve what you got, then I think he can have the scope to get the vision that he wants. And that's what I want at the end of the day, that he's able to realize his vision, but that we don't end up in a situation where the franchise is compromised because too much is being asked for. I sound greedy a little bit here, but I want more Shenmue. I want more content. And I just think overhauling an engine, whether he will or not, I don't think that's the right move. I think you've got to go with what you have and improve upon it.
Yeah, that's fair enough. And you both mentioned the story being one of those factors that you want to see expanded. So going to the meat and potatoes of the game now, we've got many theories on where Ryo's journey is going, which characters might pop up again in the future, whether Ryo's eventually going to get revenge on Lan Di, or if, perhaps all of the wisdom and teachings he's learned along the journey will mature him as a person away from that aspect. And of course, Ryo isn't the only main character anymore. Along for the ride, we've got Shenhua and Ren too. So let's start with you now, Matt. Where do you see the story heading?
It's difficult. I think obviously we've ended up on we're going towards the Cliff Temple. So you'd imagine obviously that's going to be a part in the next game. I think the way the story in my mind will go is, I think we know that Ryo at the moment is nowhere near a match for Lan Di. He can't touch him. So his ability in martial arts is not going to improve over a short space of time. So I could see them doing a time skip somewhere in terms of his training. Something will trigger it. I don't know. I mean, one theory I've held quite for a long time is that there's going to be a death close to Ryo. Because let's be honest, right? In all of his adventures so far, what repercussions has he really had? Nozomi got kidnapped, but he got her back. But he took down the Mad Angels. What happened after that point? You think a gang would be pretty pissed at being taken down by two blokes. So there'd be repercussions, surely. But there haven't been any that we know of. In Shenmue 2, again, where's the repercussions of his actions? There has to be a payoff in terms of Ryo being so headstrong, so blinded by revenge, that something is going to have to happen to him. That's that moment that he then realizes this is the wrong thing to be doing and there's a bigger picture. So could Ren die? I could see it. I also would love, and I think we should be meeting Zimming by Shenmue 4. I think Zimming's got a big role to play in the story. And I think I'm really intrigued to talk about Shenhua's lineage and where that's going, and her ties to her ancestors and the ancient cities. I mean, we've seen it in the trailers, like Shenmue Online. I know it's apparently not canon, but I don't know. I call bullshit on that. I reckon there's more canon in there than we realise.
I think Peter's got a lot to say about that. Did you put a tweet out the other day? I read somewhere you mentioning about the Shenmue Online trailer, Peter.
Yeah, it was on the forums. We had a topic of discussion on the forums about something. I just caught a post on the fly and was just like, I had to reply to that. But basically, yeah, as you know, as we all do, I love the old footage, the old Shenmue Online footage, the old Project Berkeley footage. Matt basically into the story aspects of it there. I think I'll take a different approach to it and talk about where we're going and the environments and things like that. I mean, structurally, as long as the budget's there, you just look at what we have in the past. Shenmue 1 had, essentially two main areas. You have the Buita and you have the harbour. Shenmue 2, okay, you have Hong Kong, Kowloon, a little bit of Guinea. Shenmue 3, you have Bailu Village and Niaowu. So I think wherever Rio's going, it's going to be the same structure, obviously. You're going to have, the same type of deal where it's, you're going to this location and you're going to do stuff there. It's going to lead you to another location and you're going to do stuff there. What I will say is I think I might have something juicy to bring to this podcast for people listening. Now, I have no insider information whatsoever, please, as a prerequisite at this time. But on my second playthrough, like I say, I did everything. I did absolutely everything, from side quests to collectibles, the whole 9 yards, right? There was a line that was said, and it caught me off guard very curiously. I was playing the Japanese dub, so I had subtitles on. And oh my god, it just made me excited. I don't even know what the sentence was. I just seen the word. So basically, what happens is if you're playing the Shenmue 3 storylines and you're also doing the side quest, there's a last side quest you do. It's called The Greatest Fortune. Basically, the long and short of it is it's the last side quest, so it's nothing big dealy. A fortune teller gives you a task. And you have to go to an area he gives you. And for me, it was up at the top of the New Paradise, like I'd say the burger joint and things like that.
Yep.
There was two guys sitting there, and you have to fight these two guys.
I remember this one.
Right? And you have to win the fight, obviously. And so when you win the fight, and I swear to God this happened, there was like a sit forward in my seat moment for something so insignificant. You beat the guys up, and the other guys are acting all comedically like, oh no, you're better than us, or you're a great fighter or something. But then the one guy turns to the other and says something which I thought as a Shenmue historian very significant. He says, come on, quick, we have to go, we're going to miss our train. And I was like, what? There's like a train station here near Niaowu. Why is that line in there? That line makes no sense. And straight away, I thought back to the old footage we have discussed for how many years. The Project Berkeley green train. And I was sitting going, does Niaowu have a train station? Are we going to get that train in the next game? Is that how Rio's going to get to that cliff edge? Because we don't actually see him leave Niaowu.
Yeah, see, this is what me and Matt have talked about. The transition from the end of Shenmue to suddenly halfway across the Great Wall. We've spoken in the past. I mean, I'd rather them bring that back, go back to the boat where Rio's talking to Shenhua's dad. We didn't really have a very satisfying conclusion at that point before we were whisked away onto the Great Wall. So it would be nice to come back and get that journey to the Great Wall aspect.
Yeah.
So, I mean, we'd all love to see the bloody train.
Where are they even going on the boat? Does anybody know?
Well, at that point of the game, you're presuming that they're heading to the Cliff Temple.
No, but by boat though. So then is Shenhua's dad going with them? They must be going back to Bailu Village on that boat.
See, and that would be a good, nice thing to do if they go back to Bailu Village, have a little chat. That maybe we can, I've seen people say like stuff about the Shenmue tree, the mirrors, all that sort of stuff should have been answered in Bailu Village while we got the chance. But that's not necessarily saying that we'll never ever go back to Bailu Village again to uncover those mysteries. So perhaps Shenmue 4 could start out on that boat. They're heading back to Shenhua's house. Maybe they have a sit-down chat. He reveals all about the mirrors, why he was working in the stone pit, and we do end up getting those answers that we've craved for, nigh on 20 years. That would be, in my opinion, a great way to start the fourth game.
What questions specifically are you looking the answers to? Like, I mean, the Shenmue tree, or the mirrors? I just thought the mirrors were created for the Roman Emperor,
the Emperor guy,
the Emperor. And that was it. I don't know how to, I don't know how to interpret the legend behind the mirrors. One of them foreshadows doom and gloom with a bloody dragon. The other, but the other legend gives you a treasure. The Shenmue tree has got mystical powers. They related to Shenhua. Are those things you think could be even satisfactorily answered ever?
Well, it's that underlining tone that we've had. It's a mystery why, at the end of Shenmue 2, some guys working on these two massive mirrors. What's the point of that? Is it just decoration? What is the purpose of him working away so hard on two giant stone mirrors? Then what is the purpose of these strange feelings. Ryo and Shenhua are getting around the trees. Ryo's got one back at his house. Shenhua's got one outside her house. Is that even her house that we see in that ancient civilization Chinese emperor temple place in the flashbacks? Me and Matt have spoke about stuff that we want to see eventually get a decent answer to. Like, say, if they just ended the series with Ryo fights Lan Di, Ryo wins, credits roll, I think we'd still have that, well, what was all that stuff? Why were we introduced to this stuff if there wasn't going to be a satisfying conclusion at some point?
Yeah, I'll actually, do you know what? If you're talking about what will be included in Shenmue 4, which I feel had so much of a place in Shenmue 3, and I don't even know it was ever even considered, flashbacks. Flashbacks. I mean, flesh that story out by flashbacks. Even when Ryo's seen Grandmaster Fang's tree and then had that little window of his father with old footage from the Dreamcast. I mean, that was the prime perfect point of inserting a flashback with him and is it Long Sun Zhao, or is that's Lan Di? So Sun Ming Zhao.
Yeah.
That's that. Where's that? That's a no. I'm not even a writer, and you could see that. Have them training together at that tree. Have flashbacks to Iwao and when he was in China, possibly meeting Ryo's mother. Shenmue 4, I mean, God, if they haven't explored that in terms of a storytelling mechanism, flashbacks will do that in abundance. Even with Shenfa, you're already kind of getting flashbacks with her anyway, in terms of like we had in Shenmue 2 when she was born. It achieved so much. It already has us asking questions now about, well, where was that house? Why is she living here in Bailu Village?
Yeah.
It has so much potential. I don't even know why they haven't even considered that.
And we've got stuff about Shenhua that, we haven't even mentioned a potential powers. How do you see Shenhua's story playing out across the next game or two?
I think Yu Suzuki's kind of given that away in interviews. He's a very firm believer in power of the earth, in harnessing it inside you, ki, I think it's called, and that you can manipulate forces with just the power of your being. He does believe in that, I think. And I think that's just kind of basically what he's getting at. We've seen it in the Project Berkeley trailer, which I try and not lean too heavily on. As far as I know, a lot of stuff was very concept, and it's not a given that we'll see even any of that in future games. But the power of ki he has spoken about many times in interviews, and I think that is what Shenhua kind of possesses. I mean, I don't know about her Dr. Dolittle stuff where she can walk and talk and sing with the animals. I don't know what's going on there, but in terms of that scene...
And get people to change their attitude.
Yeah, that scene with Yanling, yeah. I mean, she clearly... There was some of that stuff going on, I think. I don't know, maybe she moved a bottle off the cabinet with her eyes or something, I don't know, but yeah... I don't know. I don't think that stuff's... I think that stuff's inexplicable. I don't think you will ever get answers to that stuff. It's, it's stuff that can't be explained, so you just kind of go with it.
It is interesting that, Ryo's never thought to ask her, all this time on the journey there, the nighttime conversations, even heading into Niawu. He's never at once said, so, what did you do to Yang Lang? There's certain aspects there that you think would be obvious for Ryo to ask. So maybe, like you say, they are kind of keeping that close to their chests. It's not really meant to be thought of in such an extravagant way. It's just something that you kind of have to buy into.
And in terms of explanation, you're not going to get it. But like as Matt was saying, and like I've also spoken about as well, I think they kind of dropped the ball with the Shenmue Online trailer. That it's too on the nose.
Yeah, there's too much going on.
The whole imagery of the Shenfa in the early days of Shenmue, her Princess Bridal outfit, the legend of the dragon and the phoenix, and then we get a trailer of Lan Di physically controlling a Chiyu dragon, and then Shenhua summoning a flaming phoenix. It's just far too... There it is! That's literally what we were telling you was going to happen, and there it's happening. I mean, what are they going to do? They're going to retcon that then and then just come up with a story where everybody goes home happy and has a beer? It's not going to happen.
Well, the fact that is out there as a medium now, is that going to potentially disappoint us if stuff like that doesn't happen now?
Oh, God, no. If it doesn't happen, yeah.
Yeah.
Because even though we'll have that Shenmue Online stuff, I want to see it. I want to play it. I want whatever's in that cliff edge. I want whatever causes You know, is there a reveal of the treasure? Is it physical treasure? Does Ren get that? Is there a dragon going to come out of the sky? Is Shenhua going to transform into her, you know, her outfit and do all sorts of mad, crazy stuff? I want to see that. Hell yeah, I've loved that mystical element of the Shenmue story.
Next, I'm going to go to you now, Matt. So we haven't really spoken about her, but obviously there's the inclusion of Niao-sun, you know, the second huge baddie that's kind of been shown to us since the early days, like the Shenmue premiere stuff. She's been one of those main sort of characters that we've only just been introduced to at the end of Shenmue 3. So she obviously has such a massive role going forward. So do you think you've got like any thoughts about her motivations or how all of this is going to be linked to, say, the mirrors, etc., moving forward?
I mean, she's a master manipulator, isn't she? That's how she's been described in the early content. And bearing in mind, we know that she's attempting to take over the Chiyu men, and as far as we're aware, she probably thinks Landy is dead. Although the boat trip would guess that he probably isn't somehow. For skipping a few bits, I think from Niao-sun, what I want to see is what her motivations are. Why does she want the mirrors? What is it for? Does she want the treasure for herself? What is she trying to gain from it other than screwing Landy over? How does Zimming fit into her story arc as well? And how is she going to impact Ryo? I mean, she's a master manipulator. Is that going to then impact Ren, for example, who clearly has his eyes on the treasure? I know he's got a friendship with Ryo.
And he's got her eyes on Niao-sun as well, actually, Ren.
Well, yeah, cheeky bugger. Is she going to manipulate Ren to do something that would, you know, to push him towards it, or think to push him towards the treasure, but actually she's just using him for something else, and then as a sort of payoff of that, that Ren ends up dying. You know, he ends up last minute realizing what he's done and sacrifices himself. I mean, there's so much that can be done here, but she's a manipulator. That's the big thing. I want to see that in action. I want to see her carve her way through that story and mold people to her will and just really go into that sort of that character of her, of how nasty she is and how evil she is, and also how does Landy fit into that? What's their relationship? What's gone on there as well?
Yeah, and you mentioned Zimming as well. We get that Shenmue 2 side story comic that shows actually Niao-sun speaking with Zimming. So there's obviously a relationship that's going to happen there. I think it's pretty much a given that eventually we will see Zimming, and perhaps do you think Xiuying will come back to tie that sort of story up as well?
I'd be surprised if she didn't. I mean, I know we shouldn't pay too much credence to the chapter cards because obviously things have changed over the years, but she is in the final chapter card, if I remember correctly. And I'm sure she appears earlier on again as well. So I would expect, especially with Zimming is pretty much nailed on to appear, in my opinion, I would expect to see Xiuying come back for some reason, and that will be the Zimming story for me.
Okay, so guys, before we kind of move on, is there anything else that you want to say regarding Shenmue 4 going forward? Anything that stands out to you that we might have missed?
I don't know about stands out what I missed, but for the love of God, just use a damn engine.
Yeah, just make the game. You know, obviously we'll embrace it and critique it whenever it comes, but as long as we have the opportunity to get the game, whatever will be will be. It's just as long as we have the opportunity, and of course, Yu Suzuki has the opportunity to give it a crack. You know, let somebody have it in their heart. Just, I don't mean to sound like begging, you know, but I cannot emphasize enough on a personal level from him how badly he wants to finish this saga, how much he loves this saga, how much he loves how the fans love this saga. Out of his entire gaming career, of all the amazing accolades he's achieved, Shenmue is his life now, for better or for worse.
He's kind of getting in the way of potentially other games he wants to work on. He's mentioned he wants to do, you know, a racing game again, or, you know, these sort of things. And Shenmue franchise, in a way, is sort of holding him back a little bit because he knows he's still got to finish that within his lifetime. And, you know, do you think it's difficult on him because he's got, I mean, obviously he wants to, so he's passionate about it. He's still got that love and drive. So it's not like finishing the saga is going to be hard to do and something that he particularly doesn't want to do. but do you think it's sort of standing in the way of him doing other projects and stuff?
I don't know. I mean, we don't know. This is sort of airing into a different topic altogether, but
yeah,
assuming we don't know how the lights are being kept on at Wisenett, so could he be working on other things now to help fund a potential Shenmue 4? I mean, there's a realm of possibilities out there. Something's keeping the lights on there. They've got to be working on something if it's not Shenmue 4. So he could well be working on other projects for all we know, and has sort of decided I'll use that as a medium, but then it sort of feeds his overall vision of finishing the Shenmue saga.
Yeah, but that's what we heard, wasn't it? After Gamescom 2019, I think it was, wasn't it? He went on to, I think he went back to Monaco, I think it was. Or was it after Monaco 19, actually? I might be incorrect in that. But yeah, there was the photograph put out as well. I think it was one of the Kickstarter updates where he was in a hotel room trying VR.
Yeah.
Hardware. I know for a fact that he was on a reconnaissance mission with his camera for a new game. Now, whether this new game would come to light or not is a different story. But his intention was there, which is amazing. But I do know as well, like, I mean, he wants to finish this saga. He just wants Shenmue finished. He feels like he owes a debt to us as fans, particularly after the Kickstarter, to finish this franchise. The note at the end of the game says it all at the end of Shenmue 3.
Yeah, definitely. I mean, that's very poignant words from Yu Suzuki, actually, how heartfelt it is to him personally, and what it means to him to try and finish the series. So I'm going to say, obviously we don't know anything at all, no insider information, but prediction-wise, pie in the sky, where do you think that we might perhaps see an announcement for Shenmue 4? And do you think it could be this year, or is it still a few years away? Matt, what do you think?
Oh, it's a few years away. I think COVID's played havoc with timelines. If they've even got anything signed off at this point and getting green light, I'm not expecting any announcement until probably latter 2022, if I'm being honest. And I could even see it reaching into 2023. It also comes into how they want to play it in terms of announcing things, and this goes back onto the Shenmue 3 experience that. If I was them, I wouldn't show anything until it was pretty much bang on and ready to go, so that you're not going to open yourselves up to criticism that happened last time. So I could see it being a little while yet.
And GPT, are you hopeful for this year still or not?
No, not this year. I'm just going to be selfish on this one. I've always had it in my head. COVID permitting, COVID non-permitting, whatever way you want to look at it. If we get to the end of 2022, if we get to the end of next year, and there hasn't been anything, there hasn't been any sort of interview with Yu Suzuki, there hasn't been any sort of mention, I'll even go as far as to include a little tease, one of the old Cedric teases, If we even haven't had any of that, and there's just no mention of it, I don't know if worried is the right term. Maybe acceptance, just kind of like, yeah, I don't know anymore. I think just Shenmue 3 happened. We had a crack at it. We should be thankful for that. But this has now been, 3 years now after the release of Shenmue 3, even though with COVID, and we still haven't had a whisper. I would be concerned. I would be remiss if I didn't say I would be concerned or worried. And
so you're saying sort of like the end of next year?
End of next year, yes,
that's
2022.
When you'd be concerned, yeah.
Yeah.
Okay. I mean, we'll see how it goes. Hopefully it's not going to be another 15 years away. I don't think we could take that, or Yu Suzuki, actually. Like you say, we've got the anime coming. That's not done and dusted. That can only help.
Yeah, you mentioned the Cedric tease as well, and this sort of feeds into what we were talking about off air, is the tweet that he put out, I think it was Thursday or Friday this week, where a fan was asking him on Twitter about Shenmue 4, and he said 3 simple words: keep the faith. Now, you can interpret that in many different ways. Worst case scenario is that they're working on something behind the scenes, and keep going, we are still working. And best case scenario is that he sat there going, we've got this green lit, boys, we're just waiting to tell you, sort of thing.
Yeah, he can't hold it in. He's keep the faith. Because he knows,
and we know he likes a tease.
Yeah.
We know he likes a tease, does Cedric. So I don't know. he's going to be in a position more than most of us to know what the status of Shenmue 4 is, providing, of course, that he is still wanting to be involved in it. And I imagine his tweet would suggest he is involved or wants to be involved in Shenmue 4.
And at least that's something, right? You know what I mean? It's not like no one said anything. At least for him to even say anything at all is better than not.
Yeah, exactly. And Cedric cares. You can tell he cares deeply about this franchise and getting this thing over the line. So I think he does need to be involved anyway. I think we'd lose something if he wasn't. But he, like you say, he could just say nothing. He could have ignored the question. So if he's not ignoring the question, it's for one of two reasons in my book. Either it's just to reaffirm, keep going, keep pushing like we are.
Yep. Or
it's a very, very slight, well, there might be something going on behind the scenes, but we're not going to tell you just yet. But this is based on nothing other than guesswork.
Great stuff, guys. I think we've covered all of those little elements very, very nicely, actually. You both made some very valid points. So we're going to move into our last section of the show now. I'm going to have a little music break with your first wildcard choice with you, Matt. So what was your wildcard Shenmue music pick?
So this is from Shenmue 2. It is Dragon Street at Night. It is probably in my top 10 favourite tracks of the whole Shenmue series. I know it's got the little error in the recording, which was never fixed in the in the release stuff. But yeah, it's such a good track. It's so easy listening, and I don't know, it just flows beautifully. So yeah, get listening.
Okay, here it is. Welcome back. That was Dragon Street at Night from Shenmue 2. So just to wrap up the show today, guys, I know it's becoming a bit of a beast already, but I just wanted to wind us down now with a little quiz, seeing as though we have a special guest today. I've got a short series of 10 questions, and since you both probably would ace Shenmue as your chosen subject on a Gamer Mastermind, we're going to get you guys to compete by actually just shouting out the answers. First person I hear with the correct answer gets the point. So that actually means you can interrupt me asking the question and risk winning the point, but I'm going to read the question very carefully and slowly, and I'm going to break it up into little parts to give you guys like a little bit of a chance to interject if you want to, but obviously it's going to come at a cost of losing the point. So I'm only going to take your first answer. So if that answer's incorrect, I'm going to give the other person a chance to answer for that point.
All right, cool.
Okay, so hopefully it doesn't get too mental. And don't worry, I'm not going to make you suffer like Casey does on the Sega Lounge challenge. Leave you hanging in suspense. Much. So, guys, are you ready to take on the Shenmue Dojo challenge?
Yeah, all right, guys, go for it. Let's do it.
Okay, question 1. So remember, I'm going to break the question up in small segments, and you can shout out an answer if you think you know what it's going to be. But just beware that if you get it wrong, that's it. So, question 1. What is the name of the leg move that Ryo learns from Guizhang towards the end of Shenmue 1?
Swallow dive.
Ooh, Peter got in there first.
What, was I wrong or was Matt right?
No, you both said swallow dive, actually, didn't you?
No, I said what did I say? Swallow. Did I say? I don't even remember what I said. I said swallow dive. I think he's right. It's swallow flip, isn't it?
I think it's swallow dive, right? Because swallow flip is when the Master Chen with the kick.
Oh, so who got that right? I'm well confused already.
No, you got that right, Peter.
That's all that matters.
I don't. There's there's no delay, right? Matt? You heard Peter say?
We had said it. I think you may have just pipped me at it.
Okay. I after I said it, I heard you coming in my ear, and your audio kind of bugged out a little bit. I don't know if that was just me or it was you.
Okay, so we're going to go with Peter on that one because I did hear the word swallow, and I didn't hear the word flip. So swallow dive.
I definitely said swallow dive. Yeah.
Okay, so Peter's got question 1. So question 2: what is the collective name given to the gang led by the character that's voiced by Eric Calso in Shenmue 2?
Heavens.
That sounds like Peter again to me.
I did stumble. I just had to go Ren of Heavens. What happens?
Are you happy with that, Matt? It did sound like Peter again to me. Okay.
Yeah, absolutely. If you're up for disputing it, 100%. I don't mind disputing it.
That's fine. Okay, question 3. And obviously the podcast listeners are going to hear this, so if we do make any mistakes, I apologise. But so far it sounds like Peter's got 2. So question 3, what do you need to pass through? So what do you need to pass through in order to reach the abandoned temple where Ryo leaves an offering of wine and buns to coerce its secluded master out? So what do you need to pass through to get to the abandoned temple? That's Matt.
Yeah, Matt didn't even bother finishing that. I was thinking of the yellow toy that you had to get the kid. For some reason, the toy tractor was in my head, and I think I could see the separate side quest. Oh my god!
Yeah, I was just saying, what area do you need to pass through? And Matt got that. He said the Sunflower Grove, and that was the correct answer. Question 4: what is the age of the bottle of Lao Joe?
50 years.
50.
Okay, Peter got that one. I'll finish the question. Which you need to buy in order to learn the body check move from Master Sun. So it's the 50-year-old Lao Jiao. Peter. So Peter 3-1 at the moment.
It's tense.
Question 5. What is the name of the location that Ryo has to visit in order to meet with Yada-san to gain his job of a forklift driver in Shenmue 1?
Alpha Training Office.
Peter again.
Yeah.
What were you going to say, Matt?
I just went blank.
No, I thought you were going to say something else.
I like that you kind of wait until the end of the questions as well.
And you have no idea how hard that is. Oh my god!
You don't have to. If you know what it is. So say when I said Yada-san.
No, but I know you're going to be an absolute. I know you're going to throw some curveballs in there. I can't get these wrong. I just can't do it.
Okay. Question 6. How many hours is Ryo given in order to reach the harbour to rescue Nozomi from the
4.
bollocks? Ooh, I think it is 4. I wrote 4. I did that from memory. It's definitely 4, right?
I'm not gonna lie. I don't know if it's right or wrong. I'm literally guessing on instinct. I'm near sure. For some reason, I don't know.
I probably should have checked, but
How long can you not put it up on the Dojo, the notebook? You know, the notebook entries.
Let's just put it in YouTube. Shenmue 1 Harbor Rescue.
You need to get there, but is it 3 p.m. or 3 a.m. or 4 a.m.?
3:30.
What?
What? It's not 3.5, is it?
Apparently, I might be reading the wrong thing. To be fair,
Hang on. So 11:45, he wakes up. I swear he says you've got 4 hours, right?
You can just
on the chai on the phone call. I'm sure he says you have 4 hours.
You know, there's people listening to this podcast right now screaming the answer at us.
oh, probably.
Honestly, I know the game's inside out. Yeah, 4 hours. I give you 4 hours. It's only because Matt said 3 is what made me look at that. I thought, of course, 4, yeah, it was a fact.
And then because he said 3, I start doubting myself as well. Going, I actually think if I don't know, I'll have to listen to this back, but I'm near sure I did say bollocks because I thought I got it wrong then. Yeah, because I thought he said it, and I was like, oh no, I've gotten that wrong.
There you go. I'll take a screenshot in case you didn't see. So in the chat there, I've put that. I'll give you 4 hours or else. Okay, right. We've we got to the bottom of that one anyway. So Peter again. So is Matt able to still win? Let me see. 2, 3, 4, 5. So 5. You could go 5-5 because there's 10 questions.
Oh, have you got a decider?
Yeah. So you're gonna have to up the game. Oh, I haven't actually. I'm sure I can come up with something now. Okay, question 7. Anyway, get ready, guys. So, what's the name of the apartments in which Ryo is given free accommodation for by Shuing?
Yantian Apartments.
In which he earns help. Yeah. Peter's got it. Dayuan Apartments.
Bollocks.
So what's the name of the apartments in which Ryo is given free accommodation for by Shuing, in which he earns by helping air the books out at Manmo Temple in Shenmue 2? Okay, let's just carry on anyway. So question 8. What's the name of the shop in which Ryo and Ren scout out in order to track down and eventually follow Yuan in Shenmue 2's Three Birds building? This is a shop on the rooftop.
9 Birds Flower Shop.
You've got anything?
Flower shop?
Any?
No, I haven't got anything. I'm blank.
Okay, I'm going to give it to Peter. It's 9 Birds Shop.
9 Birds Shop. Why did I
don't know why you said flower.
9 Birds Flower Shop.
9 Birds Shop. Okay, question 9. The Verdant Bridge in Shenmue 3 is guarded by 2 lookouts, but can you give me the name of the guy in the blue top?
Oh, bugger me.
Liu and
Shiren?
Yeah, Matt's got that one.
I'll give you that one. Shiren.
His surname's Wang, actually, or that could be his first name. Shiren Wang. And question 10. Hopefully Casey isn't listening. I was going to rip him off for this next one. But, guys, first come, first serve. Name a character from any game in the series beginning with the letter M. For Mark. Oh, fuck's sake, I'll just give you one. Any other character beside Mark.
Mark.
Beginning with M.
My mind's just gone completely and utterly blank. I'm thinking of NPCs for some reason.
I've gone blank. It's just completely...
What the hell?
It's hard, isn't it? It is hard. I've got a massive list.
I can't remember what Fukusan's first name is. Bollocks.
Masahaya.
That's it. That was what I was going for.
I'll give you that one. Masayuki Fukuhara.
But just from
Shenmue 1 alone, I've got Megumi. I've got the cat Mimi.
Good night, folks.
I've got Master Chen.
I'm retiring, I think.
Mario, the pizza. Miki, Mayumi, Mai. You could have said Mai. And Mark, I did kind of screw up and said Mark, but... Matt takes that one anyway. So, let me have a quick tally the scores. So,
8-2.
Peter 8-2 was it? You got... Yeah. I thought you got 3, didn't you, Matt? Because you got Shiren as well.
7-3.
7-3 to Peter. Peter takes it.
I'm happy. I watch the Chase every day.
I'll probably insert some clapping or some applause or something, sound effect there. So that's it, guys. I mean, it's been an absolute blast today. I want to thank you so much for coming on the show, Peter. Hope you enjoyed your time.
Absolutely. Listen, guys, thank you so much for having me on this. This has been an absolute blast. I can't even emphasize that enough. Just sitting around for a few hours talking about Shenmue it's a pleasure. I just thank you so much. It even just makes you feel great about the series, even though we're in a little bit of a lull at the moment. Just talking about it in depth with like guys I like love and respect, such as you guys, and just really going in deep into a Shenmue conversation is something amazing. So thank you so much, Matt and James, for having me on the show. I really, really appreciate it.
Yeah, it's been our pleasure, man. It's been a really, really enjoyable show. I just want to say how amazing I think you both did actually answering questions. I've not got really much to edit out, really, because you're just so on the number, so precise, so coherent with your answers. So I want to applaud you both for that, because I know other way around I'd be so blurting my words out, not really knowing what I'm saying. So I think you did a great job today, both of you.
Awesome, dude. Thank you so much.
And I want to thank also to our listeners out there, consuming all our content, subscribing to the show, of course, keeping the discussion alive over on the forums, taking part in the Let's Get Shenmue 4 monthly tweetathons on the 4th of every month, and of course for being a part of this big Shenmue family. So with that being said, we're going to close the show out with your wildcard music pick, Peter. So what you got for us?
Oh, okay. Yes, so it's one of my favorite tracks from Shenmue 2. I love the atmosphere and the feeling of this track gives you for unknown reasons at this point in the game. But funny enough, like one of the quiz questions, whenever you're tracking down Yuan, you have to go to the top of the Three Birds building, and it is the theme track that plays over the roof section of the Three Birds building. It's just so dramatic and eerie, and probably not the best track to close out a show with, but nonetheless, I absolutely adore it. I think a lot of Shenmue fans out there adore it as well, so enjoy.
That's a nice sort of coincidence there, going with the Three Birds building, but great music pick altogether. So awesome stuff, guys. Until next time, from myself, Matt and Peter, take care and come back in one piece.
Take care, everybody. Thank you so much.
Take care. Thanks for listening, guys.
Look at the time.